Gazing upon the ruined city, our MC realizes that humanity had in fact won. It's just that the 6 demon gods who tried to wipe the world off the map had all fallen. With that, even the last of them, known as the demon god of the Sea of Annihilation, had finally bit the dust. However, most of the planet's surface had already been swallowed by that darned sea of demise. Cursing his own luck, the kid knows that humanity is on the verge of being wiped out for good. Even with the victory, the mood is one of total defeat. Not a single hero survived, and even the tower that held Earth together had crumbled. Meanwhile, the waves of that chaotic, purple sea just keep on crashing, non-stop. Seeing that the disgusting water wasn't going anywhere, the blacksmith notes that the sea is just throwing a tantrum all by itself. Out of nowhere, a cocky dude named Mad Dog shows up, saying the kid thinks he's some kind of savior. Right after, Rabid Dog retorts, calling the other a coward for faking an injury. But Cold Dog quickly jumps into the beef, accusing them both of being leeches during the war. Out of patience, our MC throws it in their faces that if it weren't for the weapons he forged, those idiots would have been long gone. Hearing this, the 3 stooges get furious at the blacksmith's audacity. So, without backing down, the young man tells everyone to shut it and calls them out for a throwdown. Known as the 3 dogs, these guys couldn't care less about humanity or the demons. After all, their only rule was to act on pure instinct and their own will. Only looking out for number 1, these psychos were a bunch of complete scumbags. But ironically, they were the only ones who survived this whole mess in the end. Reflecting for a second, the boy thinks that if they had helped out sooner, the outcome would have been different. At that very moment, the 3 turn their backs and ask if there's anyone left alive to save. But the red-haired one confesses he's running on fumes with his organs all smashed up. Right behind him, the other 2 confirm they're also in a world of hurt and bleeding like crazy. Sighing deeply, our MC grumbles that they should have helped from the very beginning. Completely abandoned in that bizarre landscape, he curses the dogs for being so selfish. Suddenly, a heavy silence falls over the destroyed environment. With no strength left in his body, the kid finally collapses onto the cold ground. Accepting his own end, he mutters that nothing in his life was easy, right up to the very last second. But, pulling on his last spark of energy, the blacksmith raises his hammer high. Remembering his workshop days, he complains that people didn't even take proper care of the weapons he made. Looking at the swords stuck in the ground, he declares that they'll serve as a tombstone for everyone. A moment later, a determined look crosses the boy's bloodied face. With the monstrous waves getting closer and closer, he realizes his time has come. Then, activating his skill, the MC announces that this will be the last time he uses his power. Clenching his fist tightly, a blue energy begins to overflow from his body. Immediately, a system window appears, confirming the extraction of a bond from the target himself. Shining brightly, a magic stone begins to form in the palm of his hand. Now holding the crystal firmly, the blacksmith reveals his unique ability to create stones based on bonds. It's all thanks to his special class, which extracts people's potential and ties in the form of war. But by using the power on himself, the stone comes out completely empty, proving he has nothing left to offer. Furious with the ore's lack of color, the young man decides to pour all his regrets into it. Without wasting a second, he slams the hammer down with all the fury he had left. Banging on the metal relentlessly, the sound of the hammer blows mixes with the terrifying roar of the Sea of Annihilation. However, that frantic rhythm of forging was the only thing that brought peace to the boy's chaotic mind. Right after, a giant pillar of light explodes into the sky, showing that something insane was being created. Looking at the result of his last effort, our MC sees only a simple, useless dagger. Disappointed with the crappy result, he accepts that he's going to be swallowed by the waves anyway. But in an act of pure rebellion, the kid decides he's going to end things on his own terms. Bleeding heavily, he finally falls backward, straight into the watery abyss. With a maniacal grin on his face, the blacksmith laughs at himself for hammering away until the very end. Sinking deeper and deeper into the cursed waters, his body starts to lose its strength. In this moment of bizarre peace, he understands that the sound he always heard in his mind was the Sea of Demise itself. Thinking about the past, the boy regrets not figuring things out sooner or convincing those idiot dogs to fight. But, suddenly opening his golden eye, the reality hits him like a ton of bricks. At that very moment, several holographic notifications pop up in front of him, revealing the image of the perfect weapon. Showing the dagger he forged, the system confirms that the Return to Origin skill has been activated. But in the blink of an eye, the blue screen shatters, announcing that the on-image skill has been discarded. Waking up with a jolt, the kid is in shock to find he's alive and hears someone calling his name. Confused as heck, he faces an angry instructor yelling about some kind of admission exam. Looking around, our MMC notices he's in a workshop from 31 years in the past and thinks he's finally lost it. Remembering the holographic screen before he sank, he tries to process what the heck is going on. Shocked by his own luck, the blacksmith discovers that the useless little stone caused a time regression. While lost in thought, the teacher keeps chewing him out and threatening to kick the boy out. Not giving a damn about the annoying old man, the kid grips the handle of his hammer, feeling the weight of reality. Standing there, he wonders if coming back in time will be enough to prevent the end of the world. Pushing the doubt aside, the boy realizes that thinking negatively now won't do any good. Focused on the mission, our MC gets it in his head that he needs to grab this second chance with both hands. With a confident smile, the young man promises himself that this time, no one's gonna die on his watch. Soon his first goal becomes clear: to pass this darn academy exam with flying colors. And to top off the plan, he already intends to find those 3 lazy dogs as soon as possible. Slamming the hammer on the anvil, a huge flash of light illuminates the entire workshop, startling everyone. On the other side of the room, an old-timer with an eye patch is completely dropped by the kid's strength. Fascinated by the technique, the old man notices that the hammer strikes are absolutely flawless. Meanwhile, our prodigy blacksmith continues to shape the molten metal with absolute mastery. Leaving everyone in the room speechless, our MC shows that he didn't come back in time to play around. Shocked by the blade's shine, the assistant wonders what absurd level of finish that is. In disbelief, the guy asks if the boy did it all by himself. Impressed, the veteran professor comments that they've got an incredible candidate this year. With a brutal hammer strike, the old-timer knows that if the kid turns in the weapon like that, he'll pass instantly. Suddenly, a cracking sound echoes through the room, and pieces of metal fly, leaving the two jaw-dropped. With a slight laugh, our MC admits he still has a long way to go and refuses to turn in such a piece of junk. By destroying his own creation in front of everyone, the blacksmith refuses to let a mediocre weapon see the light of day. Furious with his audacity, the assistant yells, calling the boy a brat and asking if he thinks forging is a game. Completely calm, the young man looks straight at the examiner and says he wants to redo the task from scratch. Out of patience, the aide tries to chew him out and tell the candidate to shut up. To cut off the guy's hissy fit, our MC points to the table and tells him to bring the rest of the materials, and fast. Laying down the rules, the boy asks if there's a problem, or if he'll have to get everything himself. Terrified by the kid's pressure, the assistant runs off like an idiot to get the oars. Watching the scene, the professor warns that there are only 40 minutes left in the exam. Without blinking, the young man confirms he's well aware of the short time. Curious about his attitude, the old-timer wants to know if destroying the sword still seems like the right decision. With his eyes fixed on the pieces on the floor, the blacksmith repeats that he would never turn in such a piece of crap. Amused by the kid's nerve, the examiner tells him to give it his best shot. Then, with eyes shining with determination, the boy already starts cooking up a new plan. Sweating in front of the furnace, he knows his current body is weak. No mana, no strength, and no time for a perfect forging. Facing a critical situation, our MC decides he needs to use an alternative, risky route. Tossing stones directly into the blazing fire, the young man leaves the assistant completely confused by the bizarre technique. In a total panic, the aide realizes the kid is injecting mana into the ignition stones and warns that everything is going to explode. Ignoring the desperate screams, the boy tells the scaredy cat to shut up and just watch the show. Convinced it's madness, the guy's eyes go wide, thinking this is some kind of sick joke. Suddenly, an explosion of colorful flames engulfs the furnace, lighting up the entire place. Certain he's about to be burned to a crisp, the assistant screams for a fire extinguisher right away. To cut the drama short, the veteran professor tells the guy to stop screaming and pay attention to the technique. Pointing his hand toward the fire, the old-timer explains that the flames are flowing in a completely controlled manner. Standing before the infernal heat, the blacksmith invokes the sinister technique called 5-color flame grinding. With a smile on his face, he creates a super high-temperature flame by mixing 5 types of ignition stones. Because it's a technique that requires insane control, it uses very little mana and solves the problem of his weak body. Since the workshop didn't go up in flames, the crowd starts to murmur, and the assistant finally notices an insane detail. Surprised by the chemical reaction, the guy points out that the metal ingot has completely changed color. Quick on the uptake, the professor understands that the boy altered the metal's properties using the stone's resonance. By the old-timer's calculations, he admits this speeds up the process immensely, but 30 minutes is still way too tight a deadline. Thinking back to the previously broken sword, the examiner wonders if the kid has any more tricks up his sleeve. Hammering away, our MC races against the clock while the professor thinks he won't make it in time. At full energy, the boy breaks into a cold sweat, and sparks fly everywhere on the anvil. Suddenly out of mana, his thermal protection fails, and he curses his own body, deciding he urgently needs to train after this. Pushing through the pain, the blacksmith grits his teeth and refuses to give up in the final stretch. Aware of the risk, he speeds up his strikes, telling himself he can't waste a single second. Going beyond his muscular limit, our MC brings the hammer down brutally, ignoring his complete exhaustion. Only 10 minutes left in the exam, and the young man's face already shows the extreme fatigue from that crazy forging session. Finally, with the shining sword in hand, he declares he's finished, and the system announces that the 5-color flame blade is ready. Immediately, the holographic window indicates that the weapon has reached a high-grade classification. To everyone's shock, staring at that brilliant work of art, silence dominates the room, and no one can believe what they just saw. To break the tense mood, our boy calmly asks the examiners to read the sword's detailed description in the system. After checking the absurd stats, the assistant lets out a shrill scream, announcing that the kid passed with flying colors. After getting a smack on the head for screaming like a maniac, the guy apologizes while trying to compose himself. Back to a normal setting, we're now in Professor Kim In-cheol's luxurious office. Face to face with the professor, the boy hears the ironic question of whether this sword is worthy of being submitted. Without letting his guard down, the blacksmith gives a curt reply that, for now at least, that blade will do. The old-timer soon notices that the candidate still doesn't seem satisfied with his own work. Straight to the point, the veteran lays it on the line, saying that this academy isn't at his level and suggests he give up his spot. In a detailed explanation, he confesses that Babel's reputation is huge, but its forging department has been pretty weak lately. Ticked off by the situation, the young man scowls and states that he's well aware of that whole decline. In his memory of the disastrous future, our MC recalls that the forging department there will be shut down in 8 years. Considering his life's alternatives, he knows that the place that will become the world's greatest blacksmithing academy in the future is Vulcan. Suddenly, the boy cuts off the logic, raises a sharp gaze, and contradicts the professor, saying the best won't be Vulcan. With pure pride in his chest, the kid decrees that the best of all will be Babel, simply because he's enrolling there. In a state of shock, the blacksmith repeats that the old-timer is completely mistaken about the place's future. Pointing a finger at his own chest, he states again that Babel will dominate everything, thanks to his presence. To test the kid's nerve, the professor says he'll have to become the number 1 of the college, and the boy guarantees victory. With a smirk, the old-timer asks if the young man knows how Babel chooses its top freshmen. Full of knowledge, our MC explains the whole bureaucratic process of the extra exam that filters the best from each department. The explanation shows that the academy divides students into 3 main colleges to stir the pot. For the division, they have the combat students, the support students, and the technical folks, where our blacksmith fits in. Within each field, there are dozens of different departments, creating a true web of intense competition. To be clear, the number 1 is that monster who humiliates everyone and is recognized as the academy's absolute genius. In a more serious tone, the old-timer looks at the boy and says he's now speaking as an experienced blacksmith, not a professor. Like a bucket of cold water, he insists that even if he wins everything here, real success lies in going to Vulcan. In the end, the veteran guarantees that this is the safest path for the boy's future. With a friendly smile, our MC realizes the professor cares more about his students than his own position. Again, with a stern face, the kid replies that the environment makes no difference to someone at his level. Full of confidence, the kid states in no uncertain terms that Babel will become number 1 as soon as he joins. With a smirk, the professor understands the nerve and jokes that wherever the boy goes, success follows. Shaking the old-timer's hand, our MC says it's not pure arrogance but confesses he likes the idea. Happy with the deal, the examiner seals the agreement and says the young man is now under his care. With that, a firm handshake seals the partnership between the 2 blacksmiths. Immediately, a system window pops up in our MC's face, confirming the creation of a level 1 bond with Professor Kim. Without wasting time, the boy activates his secret bond extraction skill on his own master. Thanks to the siphoned energy, a shining or stone materializes in the palm of his hand. Now in the comfort of his room, the blacksmith calmly analyzes the gleaming crystal. With the small stone between his fingers, he thinks the quality is good but complains that the size is ridiculously small. The kid then explains that this ability transforms personal bonds into wars that don't exist in the world. But the real problem is that the bond is still at level 1, and he can barely use this stone in any decent forging. Looking at his own status screen, the boy notices his attributes are at rock bottom compared to Babel's upperclassmen. A bit frustrated, he accepts that he's weak as heck but remembers that going back in time was already a huge win. Therefore, our MC concludes that there's no reason to rush things now. Chilling for now, the kid knows he still has plenty of time to crush the darned demon legion. In his mind, the memory of the wretched monsters that devoured not just humanity but entire planets emerges. Responsible for all the misery, the 6 demon gods nearly caused extinction in his past life. To be able to go head to head with these beasts, the boy plans to focus on recovering weapons and skills based on his own memory. Certain of his plan, he celebrates that the first step of getting into the academy is already in the bag. Focused on the next objective, he tries to formulate what to do next. Suddenly, a system notification cuts off his train of thought out of nowhere. Surprised by the alert, the blacksmith sees that the bond leveled up on its own and unlocked the recording. Ability. After jumping forward 1 week in time, the majestic Babel Academy finally appears in all its glory. Far from his territory, our MC scratches his head in confusion, thinking he got lost on the way. Without ceremony, he finally finds forging room number 3. Through the slightly open door, the young man gives a calm, "Good morning," to the people inside. Right away, he comes face to face with 2 guys in suits waiting in a rather tense atmosphere. With a mocking voice, a blonde man sitting at the table comments that the candidate is way too relaxed. Out of patience, the man reveals himself as Vice Principal Michael Barmuth and immediately chews him out for making everyone wait. To smooth things over, Professor Kim points out that there are still 10 minutes before the extra exam begins. Indignant, the blonde man in the suit retorts that the problem isn't the time, but the student's cocky attitude. Quick-witted, our MC instantly figures out that the forging department is hated by the Academy's bigwigs. Watching the beef, he notices a blonde student with a disgusted look and understands why his master sent him to another school. In a fake tone, the preppy kid says it's a pleasure to meet the blacksmith, while the boy is just confused, totally bewildered. The kid wonders why the heck the room is already full if he arrived on time. Suddenly, the door opens again, and a female voice asks if the whole class is gathered. At the corner table, the vice principal comments that he was starting to think the department head wouldn't show. In absolute shock, our boy recognizes the figure immediately and gets the scare of his life. Like she owns the place, the red-haired woman in a suit throws herself into a chair without the slightest ceremony. Without a hint of remorse, the woman reveals herself as the college head Ryu Eunha and apologizes for being late. Almost having a fit, our MC panics internally, wondering what the heck she's doing there. Memories from his past life show that the redhead worked at Babel at a different time. However, he never imagined that the psycho had once been the head of the entire department. Known in the future as the supreme rank hero Weapon Eater, she has the bizarre ability to eat swords to get stronger. Before the time regression, the two were long-time business partners, constantly dealing in armaments. Back then, the hero always had a depressed look, apologizing for having devoured the weapons he forged. Like a nightmare, the boy remembers the heavy atmosphere and the rain falling on a scene of total destruction. During that fateful day, the redhead looked devastated under the storm as the world went to heck. Face to face, the blacksmith felt the weight of regret and imminent doom. In a single jolt, our MC blinks rapidly, returning to the reality of the exam room. With a sudden shout, Professor Kim snaps the boy out of his thoughts for good. Getting straight to the point, the old-timer says he's going to explain the test rules and tells everyone to pay attention. Clear and objective, he decrees that the total time for the challenge will be exactly 90 minutes. During this time, the 2 candidates must create a weapon that pairs with the sword theme of the previous exam. By demonstrating fire in his hand, the professor warns that they are required to use only alchemical forging techniques. In the corner of the room, the old man shows where the available materials are. With the options laid out, the students have a free pass to choose any ore from those baskets. As the final judges, he reminds them that the pieces will be evaluated by head Ryu and the annoying vice principal. In a dramatic move, the old-timer gives the final order for the showdown to begin. At the professor's command, the atmosphere in the room heats up, and the exam that will decide their future at the academy begins. With his apron tied, the boy goes over the concept of alchemical forging in his head. Facing the ores, he remembers that the technique requires resonating pure mana to prevent elemental magic from getting out of control. Like a bucket of cold water, an arrogant voice cuts the silence, and our MC turns his head in disbelief. Full of himself, the preppy blonde kid asks if the boy thinks he's going to draw out mana just by looking at the stones. To cut the embarrassment short, the vice principal calls his own son's name in a warning tone. Serious and direct, the old man tells the boy to shut up and stop making stupid comments during the test. With a fake smile, Hans promises to be careful, while our MC finally connects the dots upon hearing the last name. Absolutely floored, the kid realizes his cocky rival is none other than the examiner's son. Seeing the ridiculous resemblance, the boy finds it funny and thinks the carbon copy personality makes perfect sense. Certain of his own superiority, the rich kid smiles, thinking he's put on the pressure. In the blondie's head, the competition is unfair since he's a wealthy noble against a nobody with no status. Holding blue stones, the rich kid brags about having an absurd mana reserve for his age. With the crystal held high, Hans is absolutely certain he's already won this spot without breaking a sweat. On the other side of the table, the vice principal recognizes the high-class water stones and silently cheers for his own son. With a stern face, Professor Kim warns that water-type mana is very sensitive to fire and quite complicated to refine. Cynically, the vice principal calls it old-timer talk and says that alchemical forging has evolved a lot. In rebuttal, Kim warns that forging time varies greatly depending on the war and bets 30 minutes to see any result. Full of pride, the blonde old-timer retorts that Hans can synthesize any ore in that same amount of time. At the forging table, the preppy kid manipulates the stones and activates the exact resonance to complete the synthesis in half an hour. Surprised by the speed, the professor admits that the boy's level rivals even second-year students. Immediately, it dawns on him, and Kim understands the examiner's dirty trick. Furious on the inside, he realizes the vice principal manipulated the rules, giving a short time limit and materials to favor his son. Unfazed by the drama, our MC just looks at the table and decides the stones there will work for his plan. Quickly, the kid grabs some red and white ores, leaving the judges confused. Curious, the bigwigs try to understand the bizarre choice of materials the boy picked. With a sly smile, the vice principal comments that those red stones are the exact elemental opposite of Hans's blue ones. Confused by the audacity, the guy doesn't know if the blacksmith is really that good, or if he picked the stones on purpose just to be difficult. In the preppy kid's mind, he's already declared victory, thinking the boy is a complete idiot. Laughing his head off, the rich kid concludes that winning this exam will be easier than taking candy from a baby. Suddenly, a blinding light cuts through the room, and the blonde's eyes go wide, not understanding a thing. Without wasting a second, our MC activates his secret bond recording ability on the spot. In front of the holographic window, he equips the fire link iron directly onto his right arm. Immediately, an incandescent aura covers the boy's fist, as if it were a glove of pure magma. Firmly, with his arm ablaze, the blacksmith prepares to begin his absurd forging. Startled by the flash, Hans tries to downplay the shine, calling it a cheap, meaningless trick. But ignoring the whining, our MC concentrates the fire even more, creating a burning vortex in the palm of his hand. Immersed in the flame, the kid manipulates the red ores, melting everything with monstrous ease. In the back of the room, the judges watch the scene, perplexed by the technique's level of aggression. Certain it's madness, the vice principal says the boy is being an imbecile for trying to resonate elemental or using only brute mana force. As a final warning, the man in the suit states that forcing the aura like that will only make the man explode. In the midst of the madness, the flames spiral, and the power goes completely out of normal control. With an intense blast of energy, the blacksmith is swallowed by light while Hans goes into shock, thinking his rival is about to cause a disaster at the school. Shielding his eyes from the brightness, the blonde yells, asking where so much firepower is coming from. When the dust settles, a sword sheath made of pure fire hovers majestically in the air. Right after, the system announces that the forging process is complete, revealing the creation of the stacked fire sheath. From her judge's chair, the red-haired weapon eater jumps up, shocked by the result. In total shock, the vice principal stammers, unable to believe the boy actually managed to stabilize the ores. On the system screen, it's clear that the sheath stores and amplifies fire mana and also unleashes the wildfire skill. Frozen in place, Hans stutters, asking how it's possible for someone to finish the synthesis so quickly. In denial, the rich kid insists that the elemental mana should have exploded in his rival's hands. Looking at his own unfinished work, the preppy kid starts to doubt the techniques he's learned his entire life. Desperate, the vice principal shouts for the exam to be stopped immediately and accuses the blacksmith of cheating. Out of his mind, the overprotective father unleashes a wicked electric aura and stands up to intimidate the boy. Coldly, our MC just watches the pathetic scene and lets out a confused mumble at the tantrum. With the mood completely shattered, the scene now shifts to the forging department's courtyard in the afternoon. Back to the day's conversation, our MC listens to the vice principal's speech, his voice dripping with falsehood. With a cynical expression, the man says the boy would have been nominated for the top of the college if it weren't for a serious problem. Faking sadness, the bigwig laments the situation, claiming it's a shame to have to take drastic measures. To try and justify the injustice, he shifts the blame, saying the boy's actions caused accidents. Rubbing his clenched fist, the kid scowls, annoyed at having lost by default without even a real fight. Certain of his own shady scheme, the vice principal suggests nullifying the test and rescheduling everything for another date, feigning concern for the students. Annoyed by the charade, Professor Kim points out that they can't just discard the test, since the disaster only happened because of Hans's screw-up. To cut off the veteran, the suited man attacks, saying that Kim cares more about results than the students' well-being. In a swift move, the vice principal begins to lay out his own theories about the boy's surreal performance. Full of himself, he points out that the world record for resonance is 5 minutes, and a mere freshman could never beat that. Yelling and pointing his finger, the bigwig questions if the kid is some kind of monster to pull off instant resonance with pure mana. Ticked off by the idiotic interrogation, our blacksmith decides to come clean and explains the origin of alchemical forging on the spot. With images of the sword floating, he reports that the original technique doesn't kill the ore but revives its essence. Majestically, the boy points out that tracing the core's roots and drawing life from the stone is what defines true alchemy. At the end of his speech, our MC states that's exactly what he did and warns that the world of forging will reach this conclusion soon enough. Bluntly, the kid declares he owes no explanations to an old man who tries to win by shouting. Feeling the blow to his ego, the vice principal tries to turn the tables and accuses the young man of using clandestine means to cheat. In an accusatory tone, the man claims that a nobody with no influential family could never make a rare-grade weapon without stealing. Fed up with this loser talk, the blacksmith closes his eyes and asks what kind of trash this guy in front of him is. To make matters worse, the redhead's female voice cuts through the silence, echoing from atop the counter. Confirming the crazy theory, the department head agrees that the boy's speed was ridiculous and suspicious. At this, the vice principal seizes the opportunity and immediately suggests disqualifying the candidate for cheating. Surprising everyone, the redhead jumps down from the counter, holding the kid's newly forged sheath, and lets out a sinister smile. Confused by her presence, the boy watches the woman get closer and closer, her focus on the weapon. Suddenly, the psycho completely loses her serious demeanor and drools, begging to take just one little bite of the sword. Shocked by the second-hand embarrassment, the two old men look dumbfounded, not knowing how to react. In the end, the scene turns into a total cringe fest, and the judge's authority goes down the drain. After all this mess, the scene jumps to the city in the late afternoon. Walking through the streets, our MC walks thoughtfully, relieved to have escaped that room of crazies. With the sheath in hand, he analyzes his own work and admits the structure is good, but it needs some fine-tuning. Laughing to himself, he fondly remembers the look of hatred on the vice principal's face, frothing with rage after the humiliation. Suddenly, the smile vanishes, and the suited man's name begins to echo in his mind in a familiar way. Pressing his forehead hard, the boy tries to remember where the heck he's heard of Barmouth in the past. At that moment, a dark memory of the old Babel comes to mind, showing the bigwig buying junk weapons that later exploded out of nowhere. Racking his brain, the kid recalls that the cursed blacksmith who left Mad Dog with permanent injuries was named Barmouth. With the revelation hitting hard, he discovers that the preppy vice principal has always been a garbage professional. Faced with this as discovery, our MC understands exactly what caused the disastrous future. Originally, his life's goal was to fix those 3 dogs early to prevent the end of the world. However, upon noticing the root of the problem, he figures that if he stops Hands from messing up, the crazy redhead won't go off the rails. Meanwhile, in a fancy faculty meeting room, the atmosphere is incredibly tense. Shocked by the audacity, professors from other departments question the decision to make the blacksmith the top freshman. With her arms crossed, the red-haired head glares at the table and asks if the crowd has the guts to go against her choice. Shaking in his boots, one of the suits tries to soften the blow, saying it's just friendly advice and not direct opposition. At the corner of the table, Barmouth tries to pull rank, reminding them that the redhead took over as head only recently. Despite admitting the forged weapon was impressive, he insists the rules need to be carefully reviewed. With venom in his voice, the old-timer accuses the head of turning a blind eye to the lack of refinement in the sheath the boy created. Pondering the matter, another professor confesses the kid has talent but doubts it's enough for the absolute top spot. Without losing her composure, the redhead retorts, stating that the weapon was only 60% complete, and that's what makes the kid a genius. Straight to her rival, she raises a sharp gaze and asks if even after that absurd demonstration, he still can't swallow his defeat. Furious, the vice principal slams his fist on the table and threatens to quit his own job if the woman continues with this nonsense. Far from that bureaucratic squabble, the story recalls that the Tower of Heroes descended from the heavens 54 years ago. In response, the abyss spewed forth the sea of the demon legion to corrupt and devour all life on the planet. It was precisely to combat this tide of monsters that the gigantic Babel Academy was built in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Leading the charge, the imposing ascended Emperor Ludwig Schubert informs the freshmen that they will become legends within those walls. To general applause, the Supreme Master sends the new generation of heroes forward toward glory. In the midst of the crowd, the boy observes the living legend who leads the academy with an iron fist. Despite his kind face, the kid knows very well that in real life, that old man is a ruthless monster. With his sword held firm, our MC takes a deep breath and prepares for the deadly challenge that follows. On the main stage, the announcer declares it's time for the long-awaited demonstrations by the year's top freshmen. Immediately, the elite students from each college are summoned to the center of the gigantic arena. Full of swagger, the blacksmith confesses to himself that he always wanted to know why the heck those preppy kids were so full of themselves in his past life. Taking the first step, our MC gets excited to see the show catch fire and size up the competition. From his prime seat, the young man finally understands the reason for all that stuck-up elite's pride upon seeing the scale of the event. With a microphone in hand, the announcer hypes up the packed stands, revealing the target for the first combat demonstration. In the middle of the sandy arena, an automaton Golem Model 9 appears, gleaming like a lethal threat. Eyeing the robot, our boy instantly deduces it's a beast focused purely on close quarters combat. Full of energy, the announcer calls the #1 representative of the combat college to open the horror show. With a grim look, the blonde kid Jake Myers enters the ring, exuding terrifying confidence. Face to face with the metal giant, the atmosphere in the entire arena becomes tense and silent at once. From his old memories, our MC remembers this guy was the weird heir to a clan of swordsmen who preferred to solve everything with his fists. With his fists clenched, the blonde fighter dryly announces that the fun is about to begin. To the announcer's excited shout, the invisible gong sounds, and the brutal beatdown is unleashed. In the blink of an eye, the freshman charges forward, tearing up the ground and flying straight toward the automaton. With absurd speed, he unleashes a sequence of aerial kicks that makes the armored machine tremble all over. With a maniacal smile, the fighter tells the robot that now, the heavy hitting is all on him. Without giving a second to react, the blonde throws a punch charged with pure, crushing energy. The impact is so sick that the golem's advanced armor crumples, as if it were made of cheap aluminum foil. Perplexed, the blacksmith watches the scene, shocked because he remembered this rare talent had died young in his past life as a mediocre hero. Completely obliterated, the robot flies away, proving that the raw power of that kid is an anomaly even by Babel standards. With a cold sweat running down his face, our MC can't understand how a monster like this ended up stuck at a garbage rank in the future. After the seconds-long beatdown, the blonde cracks his knuckles calmly and ends the demonstration without even breaking a sweat. Totally smashed and short-circuiting, the golem has no chance of getting up after that steamrolling. Satisfied with the warm-up, the combat freshman flips his hair back and gives a victorious little smile to the crowd. In shock at the level of brutality, the announcer stutters badly, trying to narrate what he just witnessed. Slowly regaining his voice, the narrator yells, praising Jake for wiping a C-ranked target off the map in a single instant. In the giant stands, the crowd goes wild, applauding and chanting the name of the combat prodigy. Quick-witted, the boy concludes that the blonde kid has put crushing pressure on the next candidate. Cutting through the shouting, the master of ceremonies announces the top student from the support college to try and top the show. Recognizing the name, our MC gives a mocking smile, realizing that pressure is the last thing that gloomy girl will feel. Thanks to the past, he clearly remembers that Erika Inu is the heiress of the Japanese clan of the three great support houses. But this legend's future was bizarre, being corrupted by demonic energy and hunted to her end by her own family. Aware of her garbage fate, the blacksmith decides on the spot that it's not worth getting close to the black-haired girl. Suddenly, the girl shoots a cold glance exactly in his direction, leaving the kid completely confused by her focus. On the clean stage, the announcer tells the audience that the new automaton robot comes equipped with special armor, even tougher than the last one. To really hype up the crowd, the narrator asks into the microphone what kind of crazy magic the support freshman will show to surpass the combat one. Without saying a single word, the girl raises a sinister black cage that radiates a heavy aura into the air. With her left eye glowing a ghostly cyan, she gives a short, sharp command to the summoned spirit. In that same instant, a black energy crow escapes through the cage's bars and soars freely through the arena. Like a dark arrow, the magic bird dives from the sky straight toward the reinforced metal giant. Annoyed by the simplicity of the scene, our MC thinks it's pathetic for the girl to try to destroy a steel plate with a skinny little bird. Noticing the target's approach, the robot enters extreme defense mode, raising a massive energy shield. Off the top of his head, the blacksmith calculates that it's mathematically impossible for that scrawny crow to pierce an impenetrable barrier. Suddenly, the bird flaps its wings and explodes in a blinding, cosmic light, engulfing the space with pure dark energy. In a tiny fraction of a second, the shockwave sweeps across the arena floor, tearing the heavy metal apart like dust in the wind. Calmly, the deadly crow turns in the air and lands back on Erika's finger, while the automaton is already in pieces. Ecstatic, the entire audience explodes in screams and applause, worshipping the surreal attack that annihilated a C-ranked defense without the slightest effort. Even our cocky kid is left with his mouth wide open, genuinely impressed by the ease of the takedown. Before the euphoria dies down, the narrator shouts at the top of his lungs, calling the top freshman from the engineering department to the challenge. Under the gaze of thousands and the deadly attention of the emperor, the young man steps forward, knowing he needs to show something insane to avoid becoming a joke. Impressed by the talent, the emperor comments that this year's rookies are absurdly strong. In her judge's chair, the redhead watches everything with the serious face of a boss evaluating her own candidate. With the arena packed, anticipation grows to see if the blacksmith can surpass Erika's demonstration. Firmly on the sand, our boy raises the 5-color flame blade, ready for the real show. On the system screen, the sword glows, showing it's a rare, grade weapon made of condensed flames. Shocked by the weapon, the students in the stands can't believe a freshman forged something so insane. But from the high box seats, some bigwigs grumble that it lacks the explosive visual impact of the other colleges. Certain of victory, the blonde vice principal gives a wicked smile, thinking the redhead's job is already in the bag. On the microphone, the narrator offers a robot equivalent to a D-rank hero, but the boy refuses on the spot. Calm and direct, the blacksmith asks them to prepare the B model equipped with heavy armor. Perplexed by the audacity, the announcer stutters, not understanding the kid's suicidal request. Over the loudspeaker, the guy warns that this model can withstand attacks from even B-rank heroes and will still be wearing armor. Overcome by panic, the narrator thinks the kid is trying to ruin his own demonstration on purpose. Without backing down an inch, our MC maintains his posture and tells them to bring out the monster at once. With a heavy thud, the armored metal giant lands in the middle of the arena, kicking up dust. Facing the steel monster, the audience falls silent with tension just from looking at the size of the lethal machine. Right after the shock, the master of ceremonies starts the combat and tells the boy to show what he's got. Confused as heck, the announcer just declares the start of the demonstration, not knowing what to expect from the outcome. Under the clear sky, the entire arena focuses on the lone figure of the blacksmith against the colossal robot. With a confident smile, our MC accepts the challenge and promises to deliver an unforgettable spectacle. With his hand on the sword, he adjusts his stance to prove what a perfectly forged weapon is capable of. Immediately, insane flames explode from the blade, illuminating everything with an infernal heat. Like a bolt of fire, the kid charges forward, tearing up the ground straight for the max-armored giant. Despite the general surprise, the vice principal crosses his arms and scoffs, saying it's just fireworks. Full of arrogance, the bigwig bets that a boy with little mana won't even tickle that steel. Focused on the attack, our MC knows that the 5 color flames conflict and can tear apart the user himself. To bypass this flaw, he uses the special sheath as a reactor to absorb and store the sword's destructive energy. With surgical precision, he injects the crimson flame directly into the interior of the gleaming sheath. After the process, the blacksmith's eye glows a deadly gold, and the true technique awakens. Furious with the accumulated power, he activates the wildfire skill, creating a true storm of flames. Like a trigger, this skill sets off a simultaneous explosion of all the compressed mana inside. With no chance to defend, the automaton is engulfed in a 5-color inferno, blowing everything up in the same fraction of a second. With a deafening boom, the pillar of fire tears through the arena's sky, pulverizing the heavy armor. Completely stunned, the narrator drops the microphone, speechless before that raw, destructive power. When the smoke clears, the scene reveals a gigantic hole in the ground and the robot completely melted. Faced with the absurd damage, the kid scratches the back of his neck and realizes he might have overdone it a little with the attack. In a total panic, the announcer yells for the construction support team to enter the arena urgently. Despite the chaos, the Academy system declares the freshman's evaluation as successfully completed with supreme honors. Now in the luxurious head office, the boy apologizes for being late, explaining he was helping clean up the mess. With a guilty look, he regrets having destroyed the school's main arena in such a brutal way. Unexpectedly, the redhead confesses that she should have been the one to handle the situation and apologizes in his place. Confused, our MC asks if he wasn't called there precisely to get a colossal scolding from the administration. Quick with a reply, the woman denies it on the spot, saying the reason for the meeting is something far more interesting. Suddenly, the psycho lunges forward, drooling with hunger, leaving the boy terrified by the bizarre scene on the couch. Not understanding a thing, the blacksmith backs away, sweating bullets at the sound of the hero's stomach growling loudly. With a fake cough, the department head tries to regain her serious composure to avoid embarrassment. Straight to the point, she offers to pay 10 times the market value for the weapons the kid forged earlier. Almost groveling, the woman begs him to sell the blade and sheath, just so she can devour the metal. In total shock, the boy asks if he heard that crazy proposal to eat military equipment correctly. At that very moment, the system beeps, confirming that a special affinity has been created with the weapon, eating hero. Fascinated by the metal, she claims that the equipment set was simply delicious just from its smell. Silently, our MC is amazed at having created a connection with her so quickly, even before feeding the crazy woman. With a calculated smile, he thanks her for the compliment and decides to seize this golden opportunity from the system. Firm in his plan, the kid pulls out the affinity extraction skill right there on the spot. In a blue flash, the system announces that a special great affinity has been successfully extracted from the redhead. On the holographic screen, he gains the passive ability to create mad blood steel, which corrodes and devours other metals. With the spiky red core in his hands, the blacksmith admires the absurd reward he just inherited. Back in reality, the redhead drools, asking again if he'll sell, but the boy gives a curt refusal. Before the psycho can throw a fit, the door knocks, and Professor Kim announces his arrival in the room. With a serious face, the veteran informs them that the emperor wants to see the freshman immediately for the final ceremony. Excusing himself, the old-timer says he needs to take the student, and the department head reluctantly agrees. With a quick nod, the kid says goodbye to the hungry redhead and follows his master down the main corridor. Left alone in the room, the woman sighs in frustration for not having tasted the perfect fire sword. Far away, the scene shifts to the imposing central complex known as the Armored Heart of Babel Academy. Through the luxurious corridors, the boy and the professor walk in tense silence toward the gigantic destination. In a warning tone, Kim reminds him that the big boss coolly ignored the destruction of the arena earlier, so it's best to show respect. Standing in front of the monstrous door, the veteran warns that the guy inside is on a completely unreachable level. With a calm smile, our MC reassures the professor, saying he knows very well who he's about to talk to. As the heavy doors open, the Emperor's imposing voice echoes through the hall, greeting the blacksmith by name. Seated on the throne, the absolute leader Ludwig looks at the boy with a gaze that seems to read the sins of his soul. From his old memories, the kid remembers that this supreme hero perished in the future trying to contain the demon gods. With the utmost respect, the young man recognizes that this crushing aura is worthy of someone at the top of the food chain. In a calm tone, the old emperor comments that the weapons forged in the demonstration were absurdly interesting. Praising his raw talent, the leader states that the technique was flawless and confesses he's eager to see the young man's path. Taking a deep breath, our MC mentally prepares for the true, deadly test that is about to begin in this lion's den. Straight to the point, the emperor decrees that the boy's talent deserves 2 special rewards from the academy. In a calm tone, the supreme master tells the kid to say what he needs, straight up. Without hesitation, our MC asks for rewards focused on increasing his magic power and recovering blocked memories. Curious about the unusual request, the leader raises his right hand, emanating a divine aura throughout the hall. Suddenly, a gleaming golden shield emerges from the shadows, cutting through the air with a metallic sound. On the system screen, the blacksmith sees 2 absurd options: heavy black ink and dream ivory. Satisfied with the items, he figures that the black ink is rare, but the dream ivory is an almost impossible relic to find. With a grin from ear to ear, the young man confesses it'll be a pain to use it now, but he already has a plan up his sleeve. From a distance, Professor Kim asks in a whisper if the reward pleased the new freshman. Playing with the ivory in his hands, our MC guarantees that it's simply perfect for his future forging. In the corner of the room, the emperor watches the boy thoughtfully, wondering what's going through his head. Fascinated, the leader murmurs that giving 2 divine rewards to a single kid was unthinkable until that moment. In the old man's mind, he admits he released the double power because the boy demonstrated the capacity to handle the pressure. To the veteran, the young man's posture is not that of a scared freshman, but of an ancient soul in a teenage body. And right after, the master's sharp gaze focuses again on the exit, awaiting the prodigy's next move. With his back to the royal hall, the blacksmith walks, reflecting on the crushing power of Babel's master. Now, the scene jumps straight to the academy's illuminated courtyard the next morning. Surrounded by suck-ups, Hans turns down a lunch invitation, claiming he already has plans with Howard. Startled by the name, the extras wonder how the preppy kid managed to become friends with the top third-year student. Full of swagger, the blondie lies, saying their families are friends, and the upperclassman just wants to give some golden advice. Immediately, the door slams hard, and the cocky kid swallows hard upon seeing who just entered. Cold and direct, our boy shoots a look of pure contempt toward his defeated rival. Shaking with rage on the inside, the rich kid can't stand the pressure of that murderous gaze. Walking right past the group, the blacksmith mentally scoffs, realizing Hans has finally understood his place as trash. But deep down, the blonde clenches his fist, ticked off for being humiliated by a nobody with no family. Ignoring the clique, Professor Kim cuts the mood, telling everyone to sit down immediately. Behind the podium, the old-timer confirms that the entire class is present for the first official lesson. In a heavy voice, the master announces that the freshman presentations won't be some cheap school speech. In front of the class, he drops a crate full of ores called projection alloy. Quick with the explanation, the veteran warns that this stone reacts violently to the user's mana, shaping forms out of thin air. As a brutal demonstration, the professor injects a drop of mana, and a gigantic magic spear erupts from the floor, cracking the ceiling. Jaw dropped, our MC instantly recognizes why the old-timer is considered one of the world's 100 greatest artisans. But the blacksmith knows this incredible ability isn't natural to Kim, but a result of the projection alloy itself. Back to the explanation, the master warns that the ore reflects the hidden traits of whoever manipulates it, creating unique weapons. Because of this bizarre sensitivity, the material is terrible for forging conventional armaments with normal patterns. To conclude his reasoning, the old-timer says these spontaneous creations are called avatars of the soul. As a final test, the professor determines that each student will create their own avatar to be displayed in the main building for 1 week. Focused on the task, the freshmen start injecting mana, sweating bullets to master an ore that costs millions per piece. In a few seconds, Hans shouts and makes a luxurious rapier shine, showing his mana is large but lacks depth. Fed up with the class's fakeness, the boy realizes no one there has enough raw talent to impress. In the back of the room, the master finally calls the kid's name to end the round of presentations. With the ore in hand, the blacksmith injects his own fire essence, declaring he has no reason to hide his power. In that same instant, scarlet flames leak from the stone in an insane, uncontrolled whirlwind. Willing to strike terror, the boy tells himself that if he's going to do it, he'd better go all out to crush the competition. Suddenly, a gigantic wave of energy bursts into the room, and the academy's roof trembles with the massive impact. Far from the forging room, students from the main building crowd around to see the new Avatar exhibition. In the center of the hall, the crowd quickly recognizes the new blacksmith's imposing sword and agrees the kid is on another level. Looking dumbfounded, the upperclassmen admit the strength there is ridiculous for a newly arrived freshman. On the display plaque, the text explains that during the kid's forging, 19 neighboring projection alloys were sucked into his vortex. Biting with envy, a random student tries to downplay it, saying the boy only made a big weapon because he stole others' ores. Out of nowhere, the support freshman, Erica, cuts off the bull and coldly states that the truth is something else. Beside her, the combat genius Jake Myers agrees with the girl, his eyes closed. To the two academy monsters, the truth is that those 20 alloys together still weren't enough to withstand the blacksmith's full power. In a quick flashback, the scene shows our MC hammering the incandescent steel with blind fury. With wide eyes, the boy brings the hammer down in precise strikes as sparks explode everywhere. Fascinated, Professor Kim calculates the forging time and goes into complete shock at the kid's mechanical precision. By the veteran's calculation, the boy struck the metal without a margin of error of even 0.1 seconds. Speechless, the master decides to skip the student's turn in front of the class, having nothing to teach such a monster. Finally, the old-timer ends the class, and the students sigh in relief while our blacksmith remains focused in his corner. Completely immersed in the zone, the young man doesn't hear the bell and continues his insane rhythm of hammer blows. With his arms throbbing, the kid finally drops the hammer and analyzes the carcass of broken swords on the table. By surprise, the professor's assistant appears from the shadows with glowing eyes and asks if the boy is going to break everything again. Startled, the blacksmith jumps and greets the preppy monitor, trying to hide his tension. Straight to the point, the aide warns that they need to deliver at least one of those pieces to the sales department. So he tells the freshmen to stop destroying them. Confused by the rule, our MC asks how the heck students get money to fund their own budgets. Cutting off the subject, the assistant arrogantly asks if the boy's problem is a lack of body or a lack of mana. With an ironic smile, the kid confesses that right now, what's limiting his technique is indeed his weak body. Panting, the young man collapses on the table and admits he lacks the pure physical stamina to endure the infernal heat of smelting that heavy stone. Without showing any empathy, the monitor suggests that if the problem is forging, maybe he needs some extra, external help. Curious, the blacksmith processes the idea and concludes that using magic buffs on his body would yield much faster results than conventional muscle training. Laughing at himself, he realizes he avoided using buffs in his past life, which is why he didn't even think of this obvious trick. Determined to cheat the system, he activates his energy aura right away and confirms that now he can handle the pressure with ease. Thanking him for the tip, the boy prepares to return to forging, while the assistant turns his back with a bored expression. Midway through his walk, the preppy kid stops and throws out another piece of acid advice, telling the boy to focus on technique instead of strength. From a distance, the monitor warns that the boy is wasting mana and tells him to reduce his power to 10%. Focusing it all on a single point of the hammer. Deciding to follow the advice, our blacksmith agrees that focusing on technique is the best thing to do for now and turns his back. Looking dumbfounded, the monitor stays planted in place, unable to believe a mere freshman ended the conversation like that. On the forging table, the heavy hammer rests, marking the end of another brutal training session for the kid. Far away, the academy's system reminds them that Babel encourages independent study, allowing courses from other departments. However, by the regulations, the boy knows he needs to pass the mandatory courses first, or else expulsion is swift after 3 failures. Over the loudspeaker, the train announces its arrival at the sorcery department station, making it clear that each student is the master of their own destiny. As he steps off the train car, our MC comes face to face with Erica surrounded by a group of cocky upperclassmen. Full of swagger, one of the big guys crosses his arms and tells the freshman to get out of the way. With a look of pure boredom, our boy retorts that the jerks are the ones who should move. Without waiting for a response, the blacksmith pushes forward, bumping into the guys with an aura so heavy it makes the extras back away, intimidated. Right behind, the gloomy girl follows her own path and curtly asks where the kid is going. Turning his head, the young man casually replies that he's heading to the sorcery department to pick up a minor. Annoyed at being ignored, the upperclassmen try to push their luck, offering a tour to the famous freshman girl. Persisting with the harassment, the guy mentions an elite party and tells our MC to get out of their sight. With a deadly look, Erica simply throws out a "not interested" and cuts off the upperclassman's fakeness at the root. Now far from the idiots, the black-haired girl questions what exact kind of course her classmate is looking for. Straight to the point, the kid replies that he wants to learn about magic buffs to power up his own body. Quick-witted, she warns that physical enhancement spells are in total conflict with forging techniques. Curious about the information, our MC changes his strategy and asks about defensive magic barrier techniques. Practical and direct, the freshman pulls out a fancy envelope and applies a sealing spell on the spot to demonstrate the theory. With mana flowing freely, she creates magic chains around the paper, proving she has mastered the subject from top to bottom. Handing over the sealed letter, the girl challenges the blacksmith to try and rip the envelope with his bare hands. Pulling with all his might, the kid realizes the spell didn't increase the paper's resistance itself. On the contrary, he figures out that the magic maintains its original properties but hardens instantly upon suffering a blunt impact. Confirming his deduction, she explains that this level of delicate control requires private lessons with a seasoned professor. From the barrier's structure, the young woman recognizes her own family's formula and offers to introduce him to a hot contact in the administration. Instead of accepting the help, our MC focuses his index finger right on the enchanted letter's wax seal. With a click in his mind, the boy understands the barrier's exact engineering just by feeling the energy flow. In a fraction of a second, the spell shatters like cheap glass, leaving the girl shocked by the instant break. Smiling with satisfaction, our blacksmith thanks her for the free demonstration and states that these barriers will be absurdly useful. Turning his back, the kid says he's going to enroll right away and sarcastically tells his classmate to go eat with her fan club. Just then, the jerky upperclassmen come running up and meekly ask if the freshman girl is okay. On the ground, the letter broken by the boy reveals the fancy noblest seal, proving it was a VIP pass. Ticked off, the girl glares at the torn paper and grumbles to herself that the elite invitation was a gift for him. Meanwhile, our MC reaches the gigantic staircase of the imposing sorcery department. Walking through the courtyard, the boy hears gossip about Erika dating another student and shakes his head. With a slight laugh, the kid thinks about how much people love to make up stories without knowing a single thing. Focused on the mission, he remembers that enrolling in the course requires passing a practical test in the wilderness beforehand. At the designated location, the blacksmith comes face to face with a dense forest and finds the same gloomy girl standing there. Nearby, a random student grumbles, cursing the winds and asking where the heck the test entrance is. Analyzing the woods, our boy realizes the school is promoting a ridiculous treasure hunt right off the bat. Complaining about their laziness, he decides to enter the forest for real to get this charade over with quickly. On his first step, the kid's boot hits a massive, invisible wall embedded in the dirt ground. Without any effort, the barrier shatters into 1,000 pieces, revealing a hidden space in the woods. Behind the illusion, the monitors look absolutely shocked and announce that the freshman has passed the first phase. Totally lost by the speed of his victory, our MC lets out a mumble, questioning if that was all there was to the test. In a luxurious room, the barrier construction professor comments on the interest of the prodigy support freshman in his course. Beside the old-timer, an assistant confirms the rumor and hands over a phone showing real-time images of the crowded forest. Looking at the crowd on the screen, the blonde master complains that the number of applicants has tripled just because of the girl's fame. To filter out the leeches, the veteran reveals he's added a sinister illusion labyrinth to this year's test. In the shadows of his memory, a redhead smiles bizarrely as the professor recalls a special request from a bigwig. According to the old-timer's explanation, this labyrinth isn't a simple magic wall but a trap that distorts the intruder's soul. With giant snakes slithering on the screen, he guarantees that mediocre students will wander in the dark until they give up. Suddenly, the master's expression crumbles as he watches the new blacksmith shatter the illusion as if it were a fragile window pane. Watching the replay, the old-timer confirms that the boy acted completely on his own, without receiving any hints from the clan's Harris. Utterly perplexed, the professor admits that tearing through the labyrinth purely on raw instinct is an otherworldly feat. Back on the field, the monitor's voice echoes, warning the few survivors that the first stage is over. Full of drive, a red-haired upperclassman steps forward with a psychopathic smile, declaring he'll be the pioneer in the next phase. In the background, the extras whisper that this is a golden opportunity to impress the gloomy girl and steal her heart. Paying no mind to the egos, the monitor points to a huge magic web and issues the challenge to disable the barrier without breaking the flow. Laying out the rules curtly, the evaluator tells the redhead to begin, stressing that pure speed will determine the score. With his hands on the web, the upperclassman notices that the energy spider at the center regenerates the threads nonstop if not contained. In desperation, the guy tries to isolate the magic's core by following textbook theory, but soon feels his own mana drying up fast. Out of options, the guy changes tactics and decides to smash everything with speed before his energy runs out. With pure brute force, the redhead breaks the magic, collapsing and panting while the evaluator clocks his time at 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Even after getting chewed out for his sloppy technique, the upperclassman gets up with a cynical smile, thinking his time is amazing. Right after, a wave of useless students tries the same test and fails miserably, unable to disarm the trap. Without a shred of patience, the monitor points at the failures and sends the whole lot straight to the beginner's class. With the list nearly empty, Urika Inu's turn finally arrives, and her heavy aura silences the entire forest. Calm and attentive, the evaluator gives the green light for the daughter of the Japanese clan to prove all the fame she carries. In a fraction of a second, the girl emits a brutal pulse of light, and the entire web turns to dust at her feet. Perplexed by the absurdity, the freshmen yell, asking how she deactivated the entire formula without even blinking. Tossing her hair with pure class, the Queen of Support shoots a sharp look, confirming her status as a living legend at the school. Checking the stopwatch, the monitor announces an astonishing 22 seconds but criticizes that the standard method would have been slightly faster. To close the event, the evaluator looks up from his clipboard and calls our monster blacksmith's name to the testing arena. Focused on the magic web, our MC doesn't notice anything special about the trap at first glance. Up close, he lets out a confused mumble as he analyzes the structure. Confused by his slowness, the other students mock him, asking if the freshman doesn't know the test has already started. Totally immersed, the blacksmith realizes this barrier has magical properties identical to heavyweight ore. According to forging theory, melting this type of material requires a perfect balance of all simultaneous stimuli. From a distance, the evaluator scratches his head, not understanding what the heck the rookie is trying to pull by just standing there. To cut off the gossip, Erika tells everyone to shut up and let the boy work in peace. Intrigued by the scene, the monitor just watches the movements in silence. With an insane idea in mind, the kid extends his hand and projects fire mana directly into the spell. Immediately, a wicked red flame explodes, consuming the barrier's central spider. As the fire devours the illusion, the extras take a step back in terror. With a slap on the ground, the boy declares the job is done. Displaying a victorious smile, he celebrates the discovery of a new, fast method for refining heavyweight stone. Shocked by the result, the assistant professor stops the stopwatch, unable to believe what he just saw. With a trembling voice, the old timer announces the mediocre time of 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Ignoring the stopwatch, the evaluator figures that the slow time doesn't matter because next time, the kid will take down the barrier in seconds. In the end, the genius didn't just destroy the web but created a perfect counter magic formula to nullify the original spell. Shaking in his boots, the old timer imagines the absurd level of what this blacksmith will forge if he mixes real magic with heavy metallurgy. Cutting to the next day, the system displays an official request from the kid to use the intermediate furnace with hero rank materials. In the teacher's lounge, an assistant analyzes the panel and wonders how many masters will kill each other to supervise the forging this time. In the blink of an eye, the guy's phone freezes from the flood of notifications from upperclassmen fighting for the spot. Despite the hype, the assistant notices that none of the vice principals suck ups sent a request, proving the mood over there is terrible after Hans's defeat. Ready to choose the lucky supervisor, the guy is interrupted by a direct message from the Supreme Command. Through the chat, the message states that the department head herself will personally supervise the freshman's forging. Back in the workshop, our MC hears a familiar greeting coming from the main door. Surprised by the visit, the boy says she must be busy, but the redhead uses the excuse that she needs to evaluate his skills up close. Facing the hungry head, the kid promises to do his best and focuses on the work on his bench. With the heavy black stone in hand, he begins the first step of the smelting process. According to metallurgical theory, the black veil method is the hardest and most insane way to work with this bizarre material. In practice, the process requires isolating the stone in a container of absolute darkness, without a single beam of light. In this technique, the stone melts like water, and the blacksmith needs to expel impurities using pure mana to increase the core's quality. In theory, it sounds easy, but the boy knows it's equivalent to restructuring matter at an atomic level. With extreme care, he reduces the stone to a quarter of its original size to not ruin the metal's lethal performance. Moving on to step 2, the kid summons an intense red flame, covering the entire workshop with an infernal heat. Drenched in sweat, our MC injects his own life force into the fire to not lose control of the reaction. Directing the mana through the flame, he fishes out only the perfect sparks from the middle of the magic fire. Soon the energy stabilizes, becoming the so-called Gordian wildfire, which freezes the magic's exact temperature. Without losing rhythm, he moves to step 3, bringing a green fire-coated hammer down on the black stone relentlessly. From her prime seat, the redhead watches the scene, astonished, realizing the absurd pain the boy is enduring to keep that fire active in his hands. Ignoring the physical exhaustion, the monster continues to hammer the ore with tireless fury under the emerald light. Far away, time flies, and the academy sky already begins to change color, heralding the night. After 4 straight hours of brutal hammering, the kid finally drops the heavy hammer on the bench. Completely saturated with fire, the black stone stabilizes into a smooth shape and begins to change its own properties. With a long sigh of relief, he confirms that the stone's magical distortion has completely ceased. Without delay, the young man throws the treated stone into the small furnace to begin the final melting. Eyeing the black liquid pouring into the mold, the red-haired head finds his choice of casting over free, forging strange, thinking the darkness will ruin the magic. Totally hyped, she approaches the bench, trying to decipher the boy's suicidal plan. In the fourth and final step, the blacksmith cracks a maniacal smile, and the woman figures out he's using the barrier, breaking formula to create a mana circuit in the metal. With the final blows, he shatters the mold's shell, revealing the hidden gem at the core. At that moment, the system announces the creation of the Black Spider Bracelet and rewards the boy with the Black Spirit Thread skill. On the holographic window, the rare great item boasts the ability to continuously absorb and store the user's own mana. Satisfied with the work of art, our MC celebrates the absolute success of his crazy recipe. Suddenly, the absurd growl of the redhead's stomach breaks the victorious mood, echoing throughout the entire workshop. In a deadly silence, the two stare at each other, with second-hand embarrassment hitting the ceiling. In an attempt to save her own dignity, the hero clears her throat and pretends the noise was just a metal resonance phenomenon. Evaluating the bracelets, the kid knows the raw power is low but plans to focus on a set effect to cheese future fights. Feeling sorry for the head's hunger, he gives her the leftover black ore so she doesn't leave empty-handed. Without wasting a second, the psycho activates the dragon's soul furnace, creating a red flame in her own mouth to swallow the boiling stone. With the metal in her mouth, the woman chews the stone and casually comments that the snack is even palatable. In a bizarre comparison, she states with certainty that the taste of that black stone reminds her of fried tempura batter. From her reaction, the kid remembers the old days of trying to please this woman's exotic and bizarre palate. With her belly full, the blacksmith calculates it will be a piece of cake to raise their affinity level, and thanks her for the fake compliment. On the other hand, the hero licks her lips, coveting the newly forged luxury swords left on the other table. To push the issue, she bluntly asks when the boy is going to sell the colorful sword and the fire sheath for her to devour for dessert. Firm in his decision, the kid shatters her hopes, saying he won't sell anything now, and the redhead assumes it's a money problem. Justifying his refusal, our MC explains he needs the weapons for his subjugation class and adds that hunger is the best spice to build anticipation. To not drive the woman crazy, he promises to prioritize her as soon as he forges something useless for himself. And the head immediately breaks into a victorious smile. Satisfied with the deal, the hero asks if the day's work is done and receives an exhausted "oh yes" from the freshman. Calling it a day, she says the cleaning crew will take over, sparing the energy the boy clearly no longer has. As he takes the first step, the blacksmith's legs give out miserably, and his body tumbles straight to the floor. In an absurd reflex, the redhead slides over quickly and catches the kid before his face can smash into the hard cement. Worried, she checks if the young man is alive while he shamefully admits he's exhausted all his physical stamina in the forging. Calling in the favor for the snack, she says she's taking the boy to his dorm by force and suddenly asks if he's afraid of heights. Without giving him time to answer, the hero lifts the kid into her arms, princess style, leaving the poor guy completely bewildered by the situation. With an insane leap, the woman smashes through the window and flies through the academy's skies, propelled by bright red flames. Shocked by the power, the crazy redhead realizes the stone she ate had absurd energy. With a smirk, our MC concludes that things have changed a lot since he went back in time. In a low flight across the academy's skis, the hero carries the kid straight to his dorm with the greatest of ease. Meanwhile, the gloomy girl, Erika, waits planted in front of the building, holding the torn invitation to deliver it. Online, students are already starting to spread rumors and photos of the freshman girl waiting for the blacksmith for over 3 hours at the door. In the comments, people are freaking out with envy, calling the boy an idiot for leaving the beauty waiting outside. Suddenly, the moderators delete the post, and the kid is left confused, staring at his phone screen, not understanding the gossip. Not paying much attention to the drama, the blacksmith sits at his desk in the classroom and decides to focus on his own life. In front of the class, Professor Ricaros Miles introduces himself to start the Understanding Tools course. Without delay, the buff guy sends everyone to the training center and warns that the last one to arrive will run 20 laps. Seized by panic, the students start running desperately to avoid punishment on the very first day. Completely bewildered, our MC grumbles that this course was supposed to be purely theoretical, not a physical hell. Pulled by the crowd, the boy simply starts running to not fall behind in the midst of the chaos. On the running track, people are already gasping for air, trying to survive the brutal warm-up. After 20 insane laps, half the class collapses on the sand without a drop of energy left. Panting like crazy, the blacksmith admits his own physical stamina is complete trash in this life. With his hands on his knees, he tries to catch his breath while wondering if the heavy forging from the night before made everything worse. To cut off the students' whining, the professor claps his hands and demands the full attention of the exhausted class. In a firm voice, the master explains that theory became practice because of a recent wave of murders involving fire, sword hunters. According to the explanation, the targets of these maniacs are precisely the blacksmiths capable of creating high-level flaming blades. Searching his old memories, the kid remembers these attacks from the past well and agrees that self-defense is the priority. To conclude his reasoning, the old-timer warns that understanding the tool isn't enough. They need brute strength to survive. With the focus redirected, the instructor tells the class to grab their weapons while the boy stretches his sore muscles. Determined not to be embarrassed, the blacksmith focuses on improving his stamina and takes off for another sprint. During the effort, he finally feels firsthand the absurd performance of the newly forged black bracelet. On the system screen, the explosive gravity skill shows that the item converts mana into pure weight to train the body. With the extra weight forcing his muscles, our MC's attributes jump by 5 points straight away. Suddenly, the professor's shout cuts off the training, telling the boy to stop running and come to the center of the arena. Using gravity to his advantage, the kid deactivates the weight in a flash and does a backflip, landing stylishly on his feet. Surprised by the agility, the master praises the freshman's physical shape and admits he was expecting a weak nerd. With a sword in hand, the old-timer tells the blacksmith to take a few swings to evaluate his combat technique. Gripping the handle tightly, the young man grumbles to himself that the heavy bracelet is going to mess with his movement's balance. Without warning, the professor lunges with a quick strike to test the rookie's reflexes by force. On pure reflex, the boy raises his blade and blocks the blow with ease, leaving the master impressed with his stance. In the stands, students comment that the blow was a bit slow due to fatigue from the tough run. Internally, the instructor's eyes widen, realizing that this kid's technique borders on the absolute perfection of a war veteran. To not lose face, the old-timer executes a forced counter-attack and says the kid is being too hasty in his movements. With a rough spin, the master disarms the freshman, sending the sword flying and ending the duel on the spot. With his boots skidding on the sand, the blacksmith breaks his momentum and analyzes his own performance with a bored expression. On the other side, the buff old-timer lowers the training weapon and looks at the student with a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. Utterly confused, our MC realizes the instructor was genuinely scared by the skill of a technical student. Unable to contain his curiosity, the master bluntly asks who the monster was that taught the boy to fight like that. To cover up his past life, the kid makes up a flimsy excuse, saying he learned by watching videos of heroes on the internet. In his real memory, the blacksmith remembers an old beggar sword master who taught him the technique in exchange for drinks. Back then, the boy paid for the lessons by promising to forge weapons for free for the old gambling addict. Back in the present, the professor looks dumbfounded, not believing the online video story for a second. Eager to polish the diamond, the old-timer offers a letter of recommendation for an advanced body control class. With the paper in hand, the boy thanks him for the chance and already focuses on the new department to solve his lack of stamina for good. Inside the martial arts building, the scene reveals an old man in a robe mercilessly beating up an annoying student. As he lays eyes on the furious old-timer, our MC instantly recognizes the swordbreaker hero, Guangsu. Reading between the lines, the kid figures that this deadbeat ex-client from his past life has become a tough as nails professor at Babel. With his hands clean, the bearded old man curtly asks who the intruder is, and the blacksmith introduces himself, paper in hand. At this, a blonde student whispers in the master's ear, informing him that the boy is the #1 prodigy of the technical department. Not giving a damn about his fame, the old-timer sizes up the kid's physique from top to bottom and says he looks weak. With a sarcastic smile, the old man asks if the blacksmith wants to become his disciple that badly. Pointing to the floor, the professor proposes a sudden death duel against the blondie, promising to accept the freshman if he wins. By the rules of the game, a single clean hit is all it takes, and the blonde gets into a confident combat stance. At the master's big shout, the combat starts, and our MC lowers his guard in a completely relaxed motion. Watching the confrontation, the old man realizes the boy is using an advanced muscle tension removal technique. Believing the freshman has left an opening, the blondie charges in full force, aiming for a direct grab at his chest. With a disgusted look, the professor grumbles to himself that he hates cocky fighters who try to win with psychological tricks. In a smooth-as-water motion, the blacksmith slides under his opponent's arm, leaving the guy to grab at air. Using the enemy's momentum to his advantage, the kid spins on his own axis and appears behind the blonde in the blink of an eye. With a surgical push, the boy unbalances the upperclassman, whose eyes go wide, shocked by the hidden force of the blow. With no chance of recovery, the blondie face plants on the wooden floor, ending the fight in a single second. By the glow on his wrist, The scene reveals that the kid activated the black bracelet at the last instant to multiply the fall's inertia. Like a sack of potatoes, the upperclassman slides until he hits the wall, completely defeated and humiliated. With a cynical smile, our MC asks with the utmost irony if he was too fast for his opponent's liking. With his gaze fixed on the professor, the boy calls in the promise and demands his spot in the martial arts class. With no patience for an audience, the old-timer kicks out the other extra students, telling everyone to get out of the dojo immediately. Full of swagger, the blacksmith rubs it in, suggesting he should be the one to teach the master's failed student. Stressed by the humiliation, the old man admits that a technical freshman beating up his fighter will stir up some heavy gossip at the academy. Agreeing with the absurdity, the boy states that the blonde needs to train much more to avoid future embarrassment. Suddenly, the defeated student gets up with shining eyes and thanks him for the beating, thinking it was a valuable life lesson. Mortified by his own pupil's stupidity, the professor puts his hand to his forehead and kicks the blacksmith out, guaranteeing his spot. Straight to the point, the MC pulls the old-timer aside, saying he has an urgent private matter. Now on the training court, the old master tells the boy to show him this mysterious technique at once. In the blink of an eye, the blacksmith lunges forward, cracking the floor with absurd, deadly speed. Caught by surprise, the professor raises his bare hand and blocks the heavy blow on pure survival instinct. With the sword locked in the air, the kid admits the attack is 100% dependent on the element of surprise. Curt and critical, the old-timer praises the concept, but warns that the technique's execution is completely sloppy. Full of swagger, the master claims that if someone had taught him this garbage, he would have broken the teacher's arms himself. Unfazed, the young man guarantees he will build a body worthy of withstanding this raw technique in the future. Changing the subject, the boy calls in his spot in the class and gets a sigh of defeat from the exhausted veteran. Satisfied with the deal, the blacksmith gives a quick bow and leaves the gym without looking back. Alone on the court, the old man smirks, amused by the audacity and talent of that cheeky kid. Outside, the boy walks calmly until he hears a scandalous shout grabbing his attention. To no one's surprise, the defeated blondie from before appears in the hallway, asking if he was already leaving. With his arm extended, the upperclassman hands a fancy envelope with a red wax seal to our MC. Eyeing the paper, the blacksmith instantly recognizes the VIP invitation from Noblest that Erika wanted to deliver earlier. Right after, the blonde warns that the group is full of arrogant jerks but admits it's a golden opportunity for the freshman. With a sincere smile, the rival thanks him for the earlier beatdown and says the invitation is a form of gratitude for the lesson. A bit awkwardly, the kid accepts the gift and thanks the guy he just beat up for the unexpected gesture. Back on his walk, the young man lists in his head the extra classes he's already taken, focused on improving his defense and body. Focused on finalizing his schedule, he thinks about enchanting and ends up bumping right into a girl with glasses in the hallway. With a feline reflex, the boy grabs the girl's arms before she can fall face first onto the stone floor. With wide eyes, the nerd focuses directly on his equipment and asks if he forged it himself. Confused by the intense reaction, the kid returns the question, wanting to know what happens if the weapon is his creation. Crazy for magic, the girl begs to apply an enchantment to the weapon, and the system beeps, confirming a bond with Lee Claudel. In his past memories, the blacksmith recognizes the living legend who could level up any weapon with her absurd spells. Perplexed by his own luck, the MC realizes he's hit the jackpot by bumping into the department's greatest prodigy. Totally in her own world, the nerd mutters magic formulas nonstop while the boy calmly bites into a sandwich. Suddenly, the girl panics, pulling her own hair, and the blacksmith asks, startled, if the weapon turned out bad. Like a madwoman, the enchanter says the problem is the opposite, as the ore has a perfect compatibility that's almost too good. Faced with so many magical options, she cries, not knowing which formula to use, and the boy just smiles, telling her to take her time. To worsen the girl's breakdown, the kid opens his bag, revealing he has an entire stock of that rare material. With shining eyes and smoke coming out of her head, the genius nerd looks like she's about to explode with so much nerdy happiness. Suddenly, a heavy mood cuts through the scene, and a guy with a mean face appears, rudely asking who our MC is. Excited, Lee introduces herself as a third-year upperclassman, praising the freshman's absolute talent in forging. Curt and ignorant, the extra tells the blacksmith to shut up and demands he follow him for a private little chat. With no patience for bullies, the boy remains seated and bluntly asks if the guy is Erika's little errand boy. Furious, the upperclassman slams the table, telling the kid to get up now if he doesn't want to be embarrassed and get beaten up in the cafeteria. Full of swagger, the guy demands a formal apology for tearing up Lady Erika Inu's sacred invitation. With an absurdly bored look, our MC retorts that the clan's Harris herself tore up the crappy piece of paper. To rub salt in the wound, the blacksmith hits the nail on the head, deducing that this idiot didn't receive an invitation and is taking out his anger. With a long sigh, the kid asks if Erika sent him there, or if the lackey is acting like a needy little puppy on his own. Startled by the verbal beatdown, Lee jumps back, feeling the murderous aura leaking from the irritated upperclassmen. Realizing the guy's immaturity, the nerd goes back to adjusting her glasses, completely losing her fear of the ridiculous situation. Humiliate in front of the entire school, the bully screams at the top of his lungs, calling the blacksmith decadent trash. With no emotional control, the guy unleashes a bizarre dark magic, conjuring dozens of lethal daggers in the air, all pointed at the rookie. Unmoved, our boy simply laments the fact that Babel is filled with arrogant, mentally weak rich kids. Facing the imminent magic attack, the kid doesn't move a single muscle, maintaining a stone-cold expression. Suddenly, a menacing dark silhouette sprouts from the ground, projecting a macabre aura across the busy campus street. With a deafening scream, the shadow entity charges brutally, tearing through the magic daggers as if they were made of wax paper. Engulfed by darkness, the cocky upperclassman is thrown far by the impact of the gloomy girl's giant crow. From a distance, the blacksmith quickly deduces that the complex spell wasn't made of just pure mana but of a murderous illusion. Lying on the ground with a face full of dirt, the bully gasps, not understanding where the crushing counter-attack came from. With his hand on his chin, our MC shrugs, feigning total ignorance about what just happened in front of him. On the boy's back, the greedy iron affinity seal glows blood red, sucking the energy from the fallen weapons. With a devilish smile, the kid feels the power melting the enemy daggers, confirming that the taste of metal is worth its weight in gold. Immediately, the blue screen pops up, confirming that the iron devouring ability has increased the durability of his own explosive ring. To top off the humiliation, he uses the artifact strength to kick the last useless dagger straight at the head of the knocked out upperclassman. With a hollow thud, the weapon's hilt hits the fool's forehead dead on, and he passes out for good, sprawled in the middle of the pavement. Ignoring the human trash on the ground, the boy turns his back and calls Lee to continue their nerdy chat somewhere cleaner. Totally dazed, the enchanter adjusts her glasses and agrees with a smile, as if an attempted murder hadn't just happened there. On the way, the blacksmith takes advantage of the upperclassmen to ask for recommendations for good classes in her magic department. Full of pride, the nerd recommends the ancient enchantment class, guaranteeing the professor there is tough but the content is incredible. Left behind in the alley, the humiliated upperclassman finally wakes up, cursing the entire world and feeling a hell of a headache. Trying to pick up the pieces, the guy notices a female shadow approaching him with heavy, threatening steps. Recognizing the gloomy girl, the lackey stammers Erika Inno's name, but receives only a look of pure hatred from the crowd's true master. Like a green twig, the goon picks up the dagger from the ground, offering the weapon as proof of the cowardly attack he suffered from the freshman. Without a shred of pity, the Queen of Support coldly informs him that she will report his incompetence directly to the clan's older brother. In pure terror, the guy silently accepts his punishment while the girl ignores his existence to analyze the blacksmith's broken blade. Impressed by the runes on the metal, Erika realizes the rookie has engraved an anti-confiscation enchantment based on her own formulas. Cutting to the principal's office, the forest evaluator signs the papers, raising the boy's magical aptitude straight to the coveted E rank. Far from school bureaucracy, our MC is startled when the system suddenly announces that a direct bond with Erika New has been established. With his hand on his head, the kid quickly deduces that the gloomy psycho was spying on the whole fight against the idiot lackey. Twirling the confiscated daggers in his hands, the blacksmith notes the poor quality of the material but decides to melt it all down for his black flame forging later. Tired of the extra trouble, the young man sits in his chair sighing to finally watch the long-awaited theoretical class on magic and runes. In front of the giant blackboard, the professor in charge clears his throat, adjusting his posture to begin his speech on the limits of engineering at Babel. Facing the class, the professor explains that the shape of metal changes completely depending on how the mana matrix is altered. Right after, the stone levitates, distorting and spinning in the air, proving that these applications define the diversity of weapons. Firm in his lesson, the old-timer states that as blacksmiths, they need to understand the full potential of the material in their hands. Today, the practical class will be exactly about shape transformation using a simple iron ingot. Quick with the instruction, the master tells the class to manipulate their mana to create a 5-centimeter engraving and then carefully restore everything. Surprised by the task, our MC realizes the professor hasn't rejected magical refinement and focuses on the 10-minute time limit. Across the room, desperation hits hard as the other students sweat bullets, complaining that the metal won't return to normal at all. Without wasting time, the blacksmith positions his hands on the iron block, ready to begin the process. Full of swagger, the blonde rival announces he's already finished the challenge, and our boy declares his completion almost at the same time. Satisfied, the veteran congratulates their speed and tells the two prodigies to move on to the next stage. With a holographic panel open, the instructor demonstrates a much more complex matrix and tells the pair to apply the formula. With a cynical smile, the rich kid analyzes the rookie's speed and is certain he'll win this round. To raise the level, the professor projects a structure full of twisted gears as the final challenge. Extremely focused, the two competitors manipulate the raw metal, and the blonde tastes his victory on his tongue. With the finished piece in hand, the preppy kid declares that his work is absolutely perfect from any angle. To ruin the kid's joy, the professor calls Hans's name in a super serious tone. Straight to the point, the master orders the rich kid to restore the piece to its original form, leaving the guy completely confused. As soon as he touches the material, the masterpiece deforms and breaks, proving the mana matrix was shot. Disappointed, the old-timer explains that the iron couldn't handle the pressure because the forging method was wrong from the start. To teach a moral lesson, the veteran repeats that it's mandatory to understand the metal's potential before shaping it. According to theory, if the altered matrix can't be restored, the equipment simply rots instead of evolving. Though frustrated, the rich kid promises to remember the lesson, while the master warns that this defines the quality of everything. With anger in his eyes, the blonde glares at our MC, trying to figure out if his rival already knew about this trick. In the envious kid's mind, the technical boy just got lucky by standing there like an idiot, doing nothing. Through his own mana, the blacksmith perfectly restores the iron block and coolly announces that the job is done. In general shock, the class starts whispering, not understanding how the rookie broke the rules of his own class. Intrigued by the talent, the old-timer asks the freshman to repeat the transformation in front of everyone. With a sly smile, our MC shapes the complex piece in the blink of an eye, realizing he intentionally missiled the professor. Faced with the proof, the master understands the trickery and admits it was only possible because the ingot had sensitive adjustments for beginners. Perplexed by the kid's genius, the old-timer confesses to himself that he let a crucial detail slip by just like that. In the boy's memories, the image of the legendary flame artisan, the monster who created this transformation formula, comes to mind. Even after decades, the theory remains a tough nut to crack for any blacksmith and represents the true essence of iron. Facing the professor, the kid knows there was no way to break the formula and finds it funny that the old-timer doubted him. Later, the sun begins to set, painting the majestic academy building orange. At the end of the day, the instructor dismisses the class and asks the rookie to stay in the room for a minute. As a reward for his choice of department, the master opens a fancy box, revealing a shining red jewel. On the system screen, the crimson flame gem displays a rare rank and the power to easily melt mixed ores. Curious about the gift, our MC analyzes the stone while the old man warns that absorbing its essence will supercharge his flames forever. In a gesture of respect, the young man thanks him for the help, guaranteeing the item will be a life-saver in his forging. At the first opportunity, the veteran throws out the bait and asks if the freshman wants to join his elective course. Quick-witted, the kid asks if the class is on the study of weapon origins, surprising the old man. Aware of the situation, the boy knows very well that this is one of Babel's most well-funded classes. However, in his past life, he never heard this master's name, indicating a very tragic future for the poor guy. Determined to change history, the blacksmith accepts the invitation on the spot, even with the professor warning that his schedule is already full. With a smirk, the prodigy guarantees he only has 4 courses now, and the math works out perfectly. To seal the deal, the two shake hands firmly, solidifying their new partnership for real. Immediately, the system steals the professor's affinity, revealing a fire-infused iron that stores heat internally. Now in the comfort of his room, the kid meditates, thinking that if you can extract metal from people, the body can also be forged. According to magic theory, having multiple elements in your veins causes conflict, and that's a death sentence for blacksmiths who need precision. With the jewel in hand, he declares he's different from the others, because the suppressive mana in his body has already evaporated. Thanks to the total energy depletion, his body is ready to soak up the crimson essence like a sponge. Focused on his goal, he decides to build an internal mana circuit 100% dedicated to pure fire. In the middle of the absorption process, a red light takes over the boy's chest in an explosion of power. Completely covered in flames, the blacksmith angrily declares he's gonna forge his own flesh and soul right there. Successfully, the system beeps, confirming that his flame attribute has risen from F rank straight to E+. Right after, the magical ability of body refinement is activated, supercharging all of our MC's physical stats. In the back of his mind, a painful memory surfaces, showing his broken body and a laughing red-haired woman. In the memory, the legend mocks him, asking if he's an idiot for giving up without even using the materials right in front of his face. With the lesson seared into his chest, the young man opens his eyes, determined to use absolutely everything at his disposal. Eyeing the moon through the window, he swears to himself that this time, there will be no room for regret. The next day, the sun shines brightly at Babel, and the instructor announces that the class will be about finishing the completed pieces. Under maximum pressure, the old-timer tells everyone to sweat it out to deliver quality weapons to the campus. Far from easy, the students go all out, and the workshop turns into a chaos of hammer blows. Drenched in sweat, the blacksmith looks at his own swords and notices his weak body has left the blades full of misalignments. With a hammer in hand, he grumbles that he doesn't have the luxury of slacking off in this new life. With brute force, insane sparks explode with each rough strike on the anvil. After the effort, the kid sighs in relief, thinking that quick fix was good enough for now. Facing the rest of his arsenal, he admits that time is up, and he won't be able to fix all the swords today. Logically, he knows that if he did a mediocre job on everything, he'd get more funding from the school. But deep down, his pride speaks louder, and he chooses to forge at least one single sword with absolute perfection. Suddenly, his mind goes blank, and the sound of giant crashing waves begins to echo in the back of his ears. With a vacant stare, the boy realizes this sound of world destruction only appears when he creates something legendary. Upon analyzing the finished sword, he notices it's not just a temporary edge, but a lethal cut engraved into the blade's very soul. On the blue screen, the system celebrates the creation of the white light greatsword, proving the master's will has surpassed matter. Covered in a pure aura, the weapon earns a high-quality seal and consecrates the freshman as an anomaly at the academy. With a quick test of the common sword in hand, our MC finds the result acceptable for the effort. With a confident smile, the kid realizes his past life skills are slowly returning. From a distance, the other students observe the boy's talent, and one of them even considers dropping out of the academy from sheer frustration. Now on Saturday morning, the blacksmith enjoys a day off, scrolling on his phone in a fancy coffee shop. At their meeting, Leah and the young man explain they want to see enchanting techniques up close, and the nerd promises to take him somewhere quieter. Far from the campus center, the duo walks to an isolated area, and the girl jokes that her magic secrets aren't on display for just anyone. In front of a rustic workshop called a kokuf, the two finally reach their secret destination. Pushing the door open, the upperclassman announces her arrival amidst the pots hanging from the ceiling. A white-haired old woman turns her head and grumbles with a sour look, saying she's not deaf. Curious about the visit, the old-timer bluntly asks if the boy is the nerd's boyfriend, but gets an immediate shutdown in response. During the introduction, the girl says the freshman is this year's genius, but the old woman scoffs, calling the kid weak. Ignoring the provocation, the woman introduces herself as Helena, and our MC politely replies with his own name. With no patience for small talk, the old woman tells the enchanter to get to work because the service backlog is huge. With a quick gesture, the old-timer points the two guests toward the work area. Eyeing the hanging pots, the blacksmith notices an absurd level of forging and mentally admits the old woman is a tough-as-nails master. Confused by the environment, the boy doesn't understand why a master like her would hide in a simple tool shop. To change the subject, the nerd shows him a palette full of colors and explains that it's pure mana stone powder. Analyzing the material, the young man notices the immense variety of colors and asks if the job there is to fix broken magic formulas. With an excited smile, the upperclassman makes a gun sign with her hand, confirming he hit the nail on the head. Focused on the palette, the girl reveals the job is perfect for making money and training magic for free at the same time. With a brush in hand, she ignites an intense golden light, ready to apply the power. Lurking, our MC recalls he went there precisely because they said the girl would face a creative block in the future. In his past memories, he remembers the nerd's tragic fall, losing her position and failing miserably in Babel's tests. Watching the upperclassmen work up close, the kid instantly figures out the root of the problem and how to fix this block for good. Faced with her extreme concentration, the blacksmith recognizes that drowning in one's own craft like that is already a rare talent. Away from the main focus, the boy walks through the rustic workshop and finds something interesting in the corner. Curious, he analyzes a special whetstone that resonates with magic circuits to create wicked effects. With his hand itching with desire, he thinks about forging the white light again, and the old woman, Helena, encourages the test. In a direct challenge, the old-timer tells the rookie to grab any piece of junk from the pile, and the young man lets out a sly smile at the owner's laid-back attitude. Motivated by the high-level tool, the kid decides it's worth breaking a sweat to test the magic stone. Without delay, the young man reaches out and grabs a very common kitchen knife from the pile. Surprised by the simple choice, the shop owner raises an eyebrow, asking if he's really going to use that. With his finger on the blade, the kid praises the perfect alignment and deduces that whoever made the knife is a monster in the art of the sword. Choosing the stones, he picks the one with the most balanced particles, guaranteeing the knife will withstand the maximum pressure of sharpening. Quick on the draw, the blacksmith slides the metal on the stone, generating a sharp, precise sound of a blade cutting through the air. Fascinated by the absurd technique, the old-timer smirks, unable to believe the boy is just a newly arrived freshman at the school. On the other side of the room, the nerd throws her arms up excitedly, shouting that the enchanting job is done. As she turns around, The enchanter is startled by the owner right behind her, and the old woman responds with her usual bad mood. With a sharp pinch, the old woman teases, saying the girl tried to act all high and mighty with the rookie but ended up swallowing her pride. Annoyed by the nerd's excuses, the old-timer barks a shut up, sending the student away with a quick smack on the head. Back at the bench, the old woman asks if the knife job is done, and the kid answers thoughtfully. With his gaze fixed on the metal, the blacksmith admits he did his best under the current conditions, but promises a superior result next time. With the work finished, the workshop owner unceremoniously kicks the duo out, pointing straight to the street. On the street, the upperclassman complains about the old woman's uncalled for rudeness while the boy just goes with the flow. Alone in the dark shop, the old-timer stands paralyzed, staring at the gleaming knife left on the wooden table. Suddenly, a fancy man in a suit bursts in, yelling and asking if his sister is in the middle of a heavy smelting. Cold as ice, Helena tells the suited man to calm down and asks for the kitchen knife to deliver the late orders. Complaining, the guy grumbles that an elite sword professor shouldn't be playing chef, and gets told off by his sister to not stick his nose where it doesn't belong. In the midst of the mess, the buff guy finally finds the knife and pulls the weapon from the bench. Seeing the insane edge on the blade, the man asks if she sharpened it drunk again, and is shocked when the old woman denies credit for the work. Curt and direct, the woman replies it was a freshman, and the man in the suit's mind completely freezes. To leave no doubt, the old-timer repeats seriously that a mere rookie from the academy made that perfect cut. On the streets of Babel, our MC walks calmly while the bigwig's mind explodes, trying to imagine the level of this newly arrived monster. Chatting, the kid discovers that the grumpy old woman used to be a metallurgy professor and retired to open that crazy little shop. Curious, he asks if there was any drama for her to leave her post, but the nerd says everything was normal as far as she knows. With his hand on his chin, the young man pieces things together, remembering that the exodus of professors sank the department in the future, and decides to investigate this mess thoroughly. In a mood shift, he asks about her own spell, and the upperclassman praises his impeccable foundation, unable to find a single flaw. Completely smitten by the compliment, the nerd thanks him with a smile, but gets a bucket of cold water thrown on her when the kid points out that her mind is too rigid. Shocked, the enchanter stops walking, not understanding, and the blacksmith bluntly says she swallowed her creative method just to follow the rulebook. Like a sermon, the MC warns that imagination is a creator's greatest weapon, and she's sabotaging her own gift for no reason. With wide eyes, the girl retorts offended, thinking he's calling her dumb. Completely calm, the blacksmith just watches the upperclassman's fit without changing his expression. To not back down, she pushes her glasses up and tells the rookie to pay attention because her time is golden. Using a magic metaphor, she explains that while forging is like throwing a stone into water, enchanting is like engraving the image of the already submerged stone onto the surface. As a raw demonstration, the metal cracks and a red blade begins to radiate pure, murderous energy called the Crimson Lotus. Impressed, the nerd stammers the names of the spells involved as the sword cuts through the wind in a smooth motion. From a visual analysis of the weapon, she discovers the kid put all the power not on the outside, but into the equipment's very soul. Shining in the middle of the night, the blacksmith reveals that if one magic layer has a problem, you just stack others until it can take the strain. With a sharp slash into the air, the boy shows how the mana reacts insanely when the layers merge at the knife's tip. In that same fraction of a second, the impact of the invisible attack tears through the spatial barrier, even startling the surrounding trees. In the wake of the blow, the blade unleashes condensed killing intent, melting the space's resistance with the Crimson Lotus. Smiling at his own destruction, he agrees that it's not a standard enchantment but breaks any rule of the game if it's real. Sweating cold in the face of so much power, the upperclassman swallows hard, accepting that true geniuses walk the most absurd paths, even when they're afraid of making mistakes. Perplexed by the marvel she just witnessed, the nerd throws herself at the freshman's feet, begging on her knees to study the blade up close. Like a spoiled child, the enchanter shakes the blacksmith, yelling that she'll remake everything perfectly, and demands to keep the weapon no matter what. Not caring much, the blacksmith hands over the weapon but demands the upperclassman take the black ingots too. Exploding with joy, the nerd does a giant leap and screams that she loves the freshman from the bottom of her heart. On the way back to campus, the kid hears the classic system chime in his mind. On the blue screen, the level 1 connection with the creator Lee is confirmed, and he notices how young she is. Now inside the packed arena, the boy reflects on the tragic future and the deadly battle between Mad Dog and the demon god. Right behind, the gloomy girl follows his steps, and the MC asks what's with this sudden tailing. With a vacant stare, Erica bluntly replies that she's just following him and will leave if he says so. Shrugging, the kid allows her to watch from a distance, and the rookie silently accepts the condition. Tired of dragging out the subject, the blacksmith sighs and decides to just enter the gym to watch the fights. On the system interface, the affinity stones of the two girls shine, revealing rare, high-quality materials. In the center of the gigantic stage, a voice echoes over the speakers, welcoming Babel's freshmen. Super excited, the announcer, Lan Fang, reveals herself as the youngest professor in the martial arts department. To hype up the crowd, the master asks for some noise and announces the entry of the day's heavyweight competitors. Under the spotlights, the woman first calls the great fourth-year veteran known for creating S-rank heroes. With the arena shaking, the absolute champion and A-rank hero enters the ring with an unshackable posture. Hailed as the Holy Swordmaster, the girl already carries the title of having conquered the Tower of Heroes. With a sharp gaze, the living legend, Aria Myers, introduces herself to the total delirium of the stands. In the midst of the shouting, our MC cracks a smile and murmurs that he's finally found his target. To go head-to-head, the system announces the hair of the fire spear and the top of the third year. Focused on the arena, the blacksmith analyzes the challenger stance, who carries the fame of a rising star. Full of fury, the famous Mad Dog Yim Seonga enters the combat area ready for carnage. In a fraction of a second, the weapons collide brutally, creating a shower of sparks in the air. Without retreating an inch, the spearman spins his flaming weapon, unleashing aggressive strikes nonstop. Cold as ice, the blonde champion blocks the heavy charge using only the hilt of her holy sword. In the colossal impact, a fiery shockwave sweeps the arena, pushing both fighters back. With an acrobatic leap, the spear user gains distance to try for a new opening in the defense. From the audience, the technical boy notices that the support the spearman receives from the academy is complete garbage. Sharpening his gaze, the blacksmith asserts that the main flaw of that fighting style is the weapon itself. In a clean, invisible cut, Aria's sword shatters the tip of the enemy spear, ending the duel on the spot. Sheathing her weapon elegantly, the blonde praises her rival's effort and declares the end of the spectacle. Over the loudspeaker, the sword master's victory is made official amidst the crazed screams of the public. A bit awkwardly, the announcer says the loser left the arena early for personal reasons. Wiping sweat from her forehead, the champion admits that fighting the number 4 rank right off the bat is a tough one. To fill the gap, the professor starts a Q&A session, while the spearman walks furiously to the locker room. With his hands in his pockets, our MC notices the upperclassman's murderous aura and concludes the guy is ticked off. Deciding to act, the kid turns his back, and Erika questions if he's not going to watch the rest of the event. Curt in his reply, the blacksmith says he's not into that kind of show and leaves the girl standing there, thinking he's annoying. To console herself, the gloomy rookie is relieved he didn't go to suck up to her brother, but doesn't understand his bad mood. From the corner of her eye, Erika notices the strange freshman is attracting a lot of unwanted attention. In the center of the stage, the blonde hero also focuses her vision on the exit, watching the boy leave. With a glint in her eye, the champion considers that maybe that rookie is exactly the person she's looking for. Changing scenes, the defeated spearman sits alone in a park near the gym to cool his head. Walking calmly, MC finally comes face to face with Mad Dog, still alive and well. In the blacksmith's mind, the image of the hero sacrificing himself in the future to kill the demon lord hits hard. To break the ice, the kid bluntly asks if the upperclassman is enjoying watching his own defeat from a distance. With a stern face, the spearman praises the freshman's skill in tracking his hiding spot so quickly. Taking a better look, the upperclassman recognizes the rookie's face and asks what the forging genius wants with him. With a casual smile, the boy thinks the reaction is exaggerated and says he just came for a quick chat. With not a shred of patience, Mad Dog tells the freshman to get out of his sight immediately. Frothing with rage, the fighter states he hates weak people and warns he won't repeat the warning twice. In an arrogant speech, the upperclassman says he despises untalented people who depend on others to fight. Motionless, the blacksmith listens to the lecture silently while the guy spits out his profession's name with disgust. Racking his memory, our MC thinks the spearman is being quite polite compared to the monster from the future. Faced with the rival's aggressive stance, the kid understands that talking won't work and prepares his mana. With blood in his eyes, the upperclassman realizes the rookie isn't going to back down an inch in the park. Cold and calculating, the boy raises a finger and says he's going to drop a single truth bomb. In a heavy voice, he decrees that the legacy of the famous fire spear will die in that idiot's hands. Furious at the insult, Mad Dog charges forward like a missile, winding up a punch loaded with destruction. Without blinking, the blacksmith activates his steel affinity mark to withstand the imminent blow. With a brutal boom, the two collide, and the freshman blocks the flaming punch with his bare palm. Perplexed by the defense, the upperclassman goes into shock upon seeing the rookie block a mana-filled punch. Re-evaluating the kid, the spearman admits the title of top student wasn't given for nothing. Drawing even more power, Mad Dog makes the residual flames dance in the air, revealing the spear's true strength. With a war cry, the guy charges, swearing this will be the end of the line for the freshman. In an infernal explosion, a pillar of fire tears through the park sky, engulfing the entire area. When the smoke clears, the blacksmith sighs in relief, completely unscathed in the middle of the destruction. Totally bewildered, the upperclassman doesn't understand how his own fire didn't burn the enemy. At that moment, it dawns on him, and the fighter realizes the flame's energy was stolen and repelled. With his hand covered in fire, our MC shows who really rules the crimson element. Gritting his teeth, the spearman glares at the rookie with a psychopathic look, about to snap. From the crushing purple aura, the boy notices his rival has lost the last shred of sanity he had left. Reliving his memories, the blacksmith concludes that the historic massacre of the fire sect happened precisely because of this lack of control. In the air, the upperclassman delivers a brutal spinning kick while the MC calculates that his own defense buff is at its limit. Since talking like civilized people failed, the boy decides the only way is to crush the psycho in a fight. With a sharp gaze and a clenched fist, the blacksmith blocks Mad Dog's attack, ready to return the massacre. With his bare hand, the fighter Jake Myers blocks the flaming punch and shows who's boss. Furious at the interruption, the spearman questions if the blondie knows the genius from the technical department. Ignoring the threat, Jake tells the blacksmith to get out of there, fast. In a warning tone, the blonde tells the kid to shut up and remember their deal. Alone in the park, the upperclassman cools his head and regrets, almost tarnishing the name of his own martial art. On the way, Jake scolds him, saying the boy could have died if he hadn't arrived in time. Not paying much mind, the blacksmith tells the blonde to stop the drama and asks what his deal is. Suddenly, the system screen beeps, confirming the dangerous connection with Mad Dog and unlocking affinity extraction. In the kid's mind, he knows he needs to find a way to raise his friendship level with that psycho to suck out his powers. To change the subject, Jake praises the freshman's courage and asks if his hand is still in one piece. Full of swagger, the blondie shows off his own hands, saying they're the hardest part of his body. With a suspicious look, our MC ignores the joke and gets straight to the point about the guy's sister. Straight up, the boy calls out his partner, wanting to know what the heck he said to Area Myers in the arena. Panicking, the blonde gets desperate and tries to change the subject, calling his own sister a meddling jerk. Cold and calculating, the blacksmith states that the blonde hero showed a very clear interest in him during the event. In recent memory, the champion overheard all the talk about the blacksmith who masters flames in the middle of the stands. Satisfied with the gossip, the kid reveals that getting the legend's attention was exactly his initial plan. Desperate, Jake warns that his colleague is playing with fire because he has no idea who his sister really is. Unafraid of the danger, our MC retorts, calling the hero stubborn and full of schemes. A bit sheepishly, the blondie lowers his guard and agrees that the description isn't too far off. Silently, the blacksmith recalls the real reason he has such a grudge against that untouchable woman. In the disastrous future, the famous Holy Sword Master was humanity's greatest symbol of hope. However, on one fateful day, her divine blade shattered, proving it was nothing so special. Right after the weapon's fall, the hero simply vanished from the map, leaving the world on the brink of the abyss. In the savior's place, the feared demon god of extinction appeared, wielding a sword forged from the remnants of evil. Back in reality, the kid concludes that the angel face she has now hides many dark secrets. With the mission accomplished, the boy turns his back and says he's heading out to his dorm. Confused, the blonde is left behind, asking if there was a problem with their conversation. Suddenly, Jake's phone beeps, revealing a message from his sister demanding he continue playing carrier pigeon. In an absolute cold sweat, the blondie feels the pressure of the blonde viper tightening the noose around his neck. The next morning, our MC collapses onto his desk in the classroom, exhausted from the previous day's efforts. With a bang at the door, the eccentric Professor Liz Doval enters the room, riding a floating cart. Full of poise, the old-timer in a top hat announces he'll be teaching the attribute refinement course for the next 2 weeks. From the bizarre look, the kid instantly figures this is the infamous professor known for being completely crazy. Before starting the theory, the old man says he's going to hand out the grades for the last practical assignment. Facing the freshman, the master says his weapon hasn't received a final grade in the system yet. A bit lost with the bureaucracy, the blacksmith raises his head and asks the professor to explain this story properly. In a fun tone, the old-timer reveals the sword turned out so good it was sent straight to the second-year auction. With a quick mind, the boy suspects the preppy vice principal is pulling strings to screw him over again. To reassure the student, the master guarantees that if it were a trap, Professor Kim would have already stopped the nonsense. With the class's attention, the old man in the top hat announces that the day's lesson will be purely on residual mana. To everyone's surprise, the master calls for a volunteer assistant, and Mad Dog enters through the door with a sour face. In total shock, our MC wonders what the heck the hot-headed upperclassman is doing there, and the two exchange deadly glares. Oblivious to the tense atmosphere, the old-timer tells the assistant to go to the center and starts pouring technical theory onto the blackboard. According to the explanation, the leftover mana from forging is divided into two types. The first is the standard, directly charged into the weapon. The second type is independent mana, which absorbs or creates energy on its own from the external environment. With his cane at the ready, the master emphasizes that the independent type is a nightmare to control, but yields the best equipment. Without delay, the old man tells the spearman to demonstrate the flow of charged mana in practice for the whole class to see. The old-timer stresses that the fire element is absurdly unstable, and mastering its residue is a task for only a few crazies. In the center of the room, the upperclassman spins his spear and summons 3 perfect rings of fire, showing impeccable control of the technique. Full of resentment, the rich blondie grumbles in the back that he can barely control his own fire in a furnace. In a mocking tone, the professor tells the class to take advantage of the elite assistant to soak up as much knowledge as possible. As an official task, the old-timer demands the class forge anything using the residue from the spearman's flames. With a final wave, the master tells everyone to put on their work gear and march straight to the workshop. Faced with a golden opportunity, Hans rushes to suck up to the upperclassmen, wanting to snag some exclusive tips. Cold as a block of ice, Mad Dog tells the preppy kid to get lost, leaving the guy looking dumbfounded. As the room empties, the spearman ignores the rest of the class and calls our blacksmith's name in a very serious tone. In the empty hallway, the upperclassman leans against the wall and bluntly asks what the heck the rookie knows about his past. From his history, the spearman reveals that his family's supreme technique requires mastering 6 simultaneous flames to be considered a master. Intrigue, the guy says he saw the freshman repel 3 fire rings without breaking a sweat and questions if the kid is hiding his own limit. Quick-witted, our MC drops a bombshell, asking if the upperclassman has managed to reach the 7th level of flames. In a state of shock, the spearman freezes in place, unable to believe the boy deduced his deepest secret. With the utmost calm, the blacksmith explains he felt a grotesque flaw in the mana flow when they fought in the park. The kid warns that instead of releasing the flame's raw potential, the guy is letting the energy slip through his fingers like water. Cornered, Mad Dog asks if the rookie knows how to fix this miserable leak. With a confident smile, our MC confirms he has the exact solution to the upperclassman's problem. Desperate for an answer, the spearman demands a technical explanation, but the boy decides to play around a bit more. Without giving away the answer for free, the blacksmith turns his back and warns that his consulting fee won't be cheap. Holding up a finger, the kid lays down the first rule, demanding fair payment for any valuable tip he provides. As his second demand, he tells the upperclassman to tone it down and consult him whenever he hits a wall in his training. Putting on the full pressure, the MC gives an ultimatum, telling him to accept the deal before they step into the workshop. With his fists clenched, Mad Dog swallows his pride and accepts the freshman's absurd terms without blinking. Satisfied with the submission, the blacksmith cracks a smile and demands the spearman prove his worth in the forge. Inside the scorching workshop, the other students gossip quietly, watching the bizarre interaction between the freshman and the elite assistant. Totally focused, our boy throws the ores straight into the fire without even drawing a blueprint, proving he's on another level. Without fear of burning his hands, the MC mixes fire and dark ores in the exact 7:3 ratio in the middle of the flames. Watching from a distance, a random student doesn't understand the logic and calls the blacksmith an amateur for letting the mana evaporate. Completely focused, the boy continues to apply extreme heat until the elemental power starts to bleed from the stone. Controlling the flames on one side and the energy on the other, he forces the material to absorb the raw power all at once. Shocked by the advanced technique, the old-timer in the top hat whispers that the kid is using the fire power displacement technique. With a smirk, our MC knows that to the rest of the class, it just looks like a normal technique. But with his eyes fixed on the fire, Mad Dog finally realizes something very different is happening there. In the demonstration, the freshman forces the fire outward and concentrates the darkness inward, balancing opposing energies in a perfect circle. Witnessing the spectacle, the spearman understands the lesson and murmurs that he's finally figured out the answer to his own problem. In his memories, the sex master ordered the secondary mana to be discarded because it interfered with the main fire. Aware of his own block, the upperclassman realizes that if he uses the opposing mana this way, he'll finally evolve. With the heavy revelation sinking in, the spearman shows 6 black rings of fire and confesses this was the way he found to master the technique. Facing the freshman, he warns that the 5 black lotuses he masters are already stronger than the Academy's normal standard. But the grim warning comes next, where he reveals that if he drops in rank, he'll lose the title of heir forever. Cutting the bull, the blacksmith simply suggests the guy try using both manas the way he used to, just once. In the raw test, the black and red fire short circuit, creating a dangerous explosion that almost tears the entire room apart. Desperate, the spearman says he can no longer control the darkness attribute and grumbles that the inspector arrives the next day. Thoughtfully, the blacksmith calculates that if the idiot loses his title, he'll be expelled, ruining the whole plan. Without delay, Our boy puts a hand on the guy's shoulder and asks what he's willing to do to keep his position. With eyes shining with determination, Mad Dog replies that he's up for anything. Approving the submission, the kid opens the system screen, revealing the extracted affinity is the red glowing black stone. Tossing the ball of energy into the air, our MC gives the initial order to change the weapon immediately. Later, in the VIP training area, the spearman tells the freshman to stop showing off by looking at the fancy scenery. Ignoring the posturing, the boy compliments the room and immediately puts his hand on the panel, saying he's going to mess with the place's settings. With a quick click, the room changes its skin, becoming the classic dojo of the Flame Gate. Cold and cocky, the upperclassman feels the familiar atmosphere and says he rarely used that illusion. With the black ore floating in his hand, the MC begins forging the new training tool right there. In a blinding flash, the stone changes shape and transforms into a spear shaft adapted for the new style. On the screen, the affinity shows masterpiece, quality, proving the beef between fire and darkness has finally created resonance. With the forged weapon in hand, the spearman stares at two short spears, questioning if he'll have to fight like that. Without losing focus, the blacksmith dictates the new rule, ordering the left hand to release black fire, while the right unleashes pure darkness. Quick on the draw, Mad Dog tries the move, and the two colored flames explode in a lethal charge. However, on the very first spin, the mana loses its rhythm and becomes a useless bonfire, making the guy back off, ticked. Confused, he asks what the heck happened for the energy to drop so quickly like that. Calm and analytical, the boy warns that multiple attributes mix naturally, but in the upperclassman's case, it's a total mess. Explaining the error, he figures the guy has spent his whole life trying to erase the darkness, and now his mind is locking his movements. To cure the block, our MC tells the fighter to focus only on the luxury equipment and use the new technique non-stop. 3 brutal hours of training later, the spearman continues to tear through the air, sweating blood in the middle of the projected gym. Watching from a distance, the kid admits that Mad Dog's adaptation rate is frightening. In the boy's view, the breathing and muscle movements are converging perfectly with the style he suggested. Following the mana flow, the blacksmith sees the energy circulating the fighter's body and exploding cleanly from the palms of his hands. Bothered by the staring, the spearman lowers his spear and asks if there's something wrong with his stance. Deceptively, the kid just uses the excuse that he's collecting data for the project and tells him not to get a big head. Laughing, the freshman states that a rookie like him wouldn't deliver such good equipment without testing everything first. Changing the subject in the middle of the break, the MC asks a fatal question out of nowhere. With the spear stuck in the ground, the boy wants to know if there's any hidden reason the upperclassman is so obsessed with becoming the heir. A bit surprised, Mad Dog calmly replies that the only reason is that his master ordered it, period. Devotedly, he declares himself a faithful disciple, guaranteeing he's only fulfilling the role he was given in the sect. On the wall of the imaginary dojo, photos show the S-rank hero who adopted the orphan boy as his son. Sitting on the tatami, the blacksmith instantly realizes the master has absolute mental control over the spear fighter. In the past, the boy witnessed the spearman being left behind like disposable trash and doesn't want that to happen again. In a straight talk, the upperclassman faces the freshman and asks what the heck is motivating a nobody to help a big shot at Babel. With a serious expression, the MC thinks about the destroyed future and the relentless invasion of the 6 demon realms. Racking his memory, the places swallowed by the sea of chaos spawned insane monsters that devoured millions. Faced with the threat, he dryly declares his intention to enter each of those dark realms personally and will need sharp, living spare parts. Messing with the fighter, he says that if the guy becomes the master of the Flame Gate, he'll be a very strong shield on the battlefield. Cynically, the blacksmith admits he's not helping out of pity but because the deal needs to be useful for both sides. Gripping the spear's handle, Mad Dog gets the message and agrees that in Babel's world, everything has a price. With fire in his eyes, the spearman swears an oath to follow the boy to hell if he helps him inherit the leadership. Completely believing in the plan, the MC warns that the upperclassman's only function will be to forge victory, while he takes care of killing the demon god. To seal the alliance, the kid throws the magic stone into the air and says the deal is done, no regrets. Immediately, a red glow fills the blacksmith's eyes, activating the resonant effect of the red glowing black stone. Under the scarlet light, the system confirms the brutal affinity transfer, marking the beginning of Mad Dog's new technique. The next day, the scene cuts to the official martial arts hall, packed with nervous students. In front of everyone, Master Kang Han Woon greets the young master and says it's been a long time since their last fight. Suspicious, the spearman looks at the extras in the back and asks who the intruders spying on the beef are. Bluntly, the instructor admits the guys are disciples of the Supreme Master, sent to watch the duel up close. With a freezing glare, Mad Dog retorts that the position of next leader hasn't been decided yet, so they'd better watch their mouths. Cynically, the older master gives a fake apology and asks if they can skip to the evaluation test. Without letting his guard down, the hare refuses on the spot, surprising his cocky opponent. In an absolute tone, he puts it all on the table and demands to take the trial of the 7 rings, to prove his worth right then and there. From the shadows, the mastermind of the ambush smiles wickedly, certain that if the kid insists, he'll handle the matter himself later. By official rule, passing 7 rings means the student has to face an instructor directly. No crying, no mercy. Mockingly, the old-timer laughs and accuses the kid of being scared, suggesting he wants to give up before even trying. Out of patience, the spearman explains the rules and declares the duel is now purely for territory and brute force, demanding a final combat in the circle. With spears in hand, Mad Dog accepts the challenge and calls the instructor to combat without fear. In a mocking tone, the old-timer laughs at the dual weapon and classifies the equipment as primitive junk. With a brutal advance, the veteran unleashes a flaming strike and catches the master completely by surprise. Furious, the instructor gives a heavy lecture, recalling the leader's orders about not mixing black magic with pure fire. Without backing down, the spearman retorts that real strength will be proven when their weapons clash. Promising pain and suffering, the old-timer summons his own fire, swearing the hare will regret his audacity. In the next instant, the energies collide with fury, and a colossal pillar of fire illuminates the entire gym. In absolute shock, the master screams as he watches his own fire dragon get mercilessly torn apart by the kid's magic. Without the slightest pity, the black blade tears through the instructor's spell in a smooth, relentless cut. Standing victorious, Mad Dog returns the earlier insult, calling the old man's technique primitive junk. Far from the drama, our MC asks what the next step is, and the upperclassman says he'll become an official instructor soon. Focused on the bigger plan, the boy immediately questions how to become the sex leader and hears there are 2 tough conditions. In the explanation, the spearman reveals he needs to reach the 8-ring level and win the approval of the majority of the masters in the area. Thoughtfully, the blacksmith doubts the guy's popularity, but the fighter guarantees he can get there yes, by force if necessary. Confident, our MC states it won't take long and points to today's beatdown as proof that the plan is a guaranteed success. Cold in his dealings, the kid reminds the spearman to prepare the proper payment for all the help provided. Showing submission, the upperclassman promises to arrange any money or material within the sex reality. Full of demands, the MC says he has an extra request, surprising the fighter with the urgency of his collection. With the spear firm in his hands, the blacksmith explains the weapon did the trick, but was just an improvised school project. Excited by his own potential, Mad Dog imagines the level of destruction of the next spear, forged with plenty of time. Full of swagger, the upperclassman demands a better weapon, and the boy curses, telling the psycho to put the blade away before he stabs someone. At that, the system beeps out of nowhere, confirming that his destiny level with the spearman has jumped straight to 2. On the blue screen, the connection becomes an official business relationship where the exchange of favors generates valuable destiny stones. Cutting to the auction scene, the gigantic hall is already completely packed with rich people and Babel's bigwigs. On stage, the suited announcer hypes up the audience and kicks off the sales from the forging department. Sitting in the audience, our MC comments on the crowd, and the colleague next to him thinks the freshman's fame attracted the whole mob. Eyeing the judges, the boy deduces the vice. Principal won't be able to sabotage his grade so blatantly with so many witnesses. In the VIP box, the suited Mihal watches everything attentively as the system reveals the new quality check with iron swords. Displaying a shining fabric, the announcer explains the material is made from the hide of an Esther rank monster and resists absurd cuts. As a resistance test, a common sword comes down, slashing the cloth, but the blade takes a violent impact and only sparks. By the auction's rule, the magic cloth is used precisely to fail weapons that focus only on cutting and forget about the metal's durability. Kicking off the real test, the master of ceremonies calls for the first sword forged by a random student. Focused on the scene, an upperclassman in the audience finds the verification curious, and our boy asks if he knows the reason for this nonsense. Full of knowledge, the girl in the kimono explains that the white tiger's fur copies the blade's cut and destroys the metal's resistance on impact. Worried, the colleague points out that the freshman's light greatsword is in danger, as weapons focused on cutting tend to be super fragile. Smirking, the MC states that this is an obvious trap by the vice principal to humiliate him and Master Kim in front of everyone. With blind confidence, the blacksmith says the plan would only work if he had done a shoddy job, as the hammer comes down, selling the other weapon. Finally, the auctioneer brings out the last piece of the night and calls for the deadly verification of the famous white light greatsword. Without the slightest effort, the boy's giant blade passes through the barrier in a phantom motion, shocking the entire arena with a completely impossible cut.